All right, good evening everyone and welcome to this evening's council meeting. Welcome to everyone who's joined us in the audience and to those members of the community online who are watching from at home. Thank you for joining us. I've got a full complement of councillors here. It is our budget night as we call it, so welcome to all councillors, and we're also joined by a number of staff, so welcome to you also. We've got a full agenda, as we always do. As I mentioned, the budget is the primary document, but there's a lot of other important bits of work that we've got to get through, and look forward to doing that with you here watching on. So I will now introduce my fellow councillors, obviously, but also the executive team who join me here at the table. We have Mr. Glenn Paterson, CEO. To my right, to my left, Miss Jen Bednar, Director, Customer and Corporate Services, and Catherine Surlis, next to Glenn, Director of City Planning and Infrastructure, as well as Callum Paddy, Director of Community Life at the end there. And also welcome to the governance officers and the AV team. Thank you for being here this evening. I will begin with item 1.1, which is our statement of acknowledgement here at the City of Casey. The City of Casey proudly acknowledges the traditional owners, Casey's Aboriginal communities and their rich culture, and pays respect to their elders past, present and future. We acknowledge Aboriginal people as Australia's first people and as the traditional owners and custodians of the lands on which we work and live. I'll now move on to item 1.2, which is reading of the diversity statement that the councillors have written. The City of Casey is a welcoming and inclusive community. We celebrate all people with their many different stories and experiences. We believe a strong community is built on respect, belonging and shared responsibility for each other. We are committed to ensuring everyone in Casey feels valued, supported and able to fully participate in community life. Now I'll move to item 2, which is the confirmation of minutes. So there was one previous meeting minutes that need to be confirmed. They've all been circulated and are available online for the community. And this is for the council meeting held on 26th of May 2026, last month. Is there a mover and seconder to confirm the minutes of that meeting? Councillor Walter moving, seconding Councillor Rowe. I'll now put that to a vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Thank you, councillors. That's carried unanimously. We will now move to item 3, which is the declaration of interests. So I've considered my obligations under section 130 of the Local Government Act and do not have a conflict of interest relevant to the agenda papers. Do any of my fellow councillors have any interest in the agenda that they wish to declare? None. Thank you, councillors. And to council officers, do you have any conflicts of interest regarding reports presented this evening? No hands, thank you. So no conflicts to declare. And with that, I'll now move to item 4. We've brought forward public questions on the agenda as part of our standing orders will be heard every month at the beginning. And with that, I will now hand over to the CEO, Glenn Paterson, to read out the public questions.
Thank you, Mayor. The first question is submitted by Lisa O'Sullivan. The question is, no response to email sent to Mayor, CEO and councillors. Could I please have a response to my questions to Council regarding the planning permit for the car park in Kramer Drive for my VCAT application? I am in a position to answer that, which is, thank you for your question. Your most recent email was responded to by the Council on Friday, the 12th of June, 2026. The second question is about the Draft Affordable Housing Policy 2026 and is submitted by Farron Imtiaz. Regarding the Draft Affordable Housing Policy 2026, will Council commit to evaluating Edgeland LDRZ1 precincts, specifically Churchill Park Drive, for 2,000 square metre lot subdivision potential in the upcoming 2027 strategic review? Given the successful 2,000 square metre precedent directly across the road in Listerfield South and the availability of cleared, unconstrained land, modernising this schedule would provide critical housing diversity for local residents wishing to downsize within the Coolora ward. The Director, City Planning and Infrastructure will respond.
Thank you for your question. The Draft Affordable Housing Policy 2026 does not include a review of current land zoning in this area. The low-density residential zone, Schedule 1, was applied to this area as a result of the Casey Housing Strategy 2019. This change was to address demand for larger lifestyle land and considered other factors such as the availability of infrastructure and services, as well as environmental matters.
The next question is submitted by Ethan Crawford about the Manuka Road Development Plan. How does Council plan to communicate the outcomes of Manuka Road Development Plan to residents who participated in the consultation? The Director, City Planning and Infrastructure will respond.
Thank you for your question. All residents who made a submission to the Manuka Road Development Plan have been notified of the council meeting decision, either by email or mail, where contact details were provided. Residents can also find a summary of the decision and the final endorsed plan on Casey Conversations and the council's project webpage.
The next question is submitted by Precious Neliath about urgent need for a 1,000 plus capacity community hall in Clyde. Clyde is one of Casey's fastest growing suburbs, yet residents have no nearby large capacity community facility. Cultural, civic and community events are being held in inadequate spaces or not at all. Does Council have any plans to build a community hall in the Clyde area capable of accommodating over 1,000 people with a large stage? If not, will Council commit to prioritising this as an urgent infrastructure need given the rapid and ongoing population growth? The Director, City Planning and Infrastructure will respond.
Thank you for the question. At this time, Council does not have plans to deliver a 1,000 plus capacity community hall in Clyde. Across the municipality, we already provide a variety of venues that support medium-scale indoor events, as well as major outdoor spaces for large gatherings. Facilities such as Bunjil Place, the Old Cheese Factory, Wilson Botanic Park and Casey Fields serve these purposes alongside other private or non-for-profit entities. It is important to note that facilities of this scale come with significant construction and ongoing life cycle costs. Any consideration for new infrastructure will require careful assessment to ensure it delivers real community benefit, will be well utilised and represents value for money.
The next question is from Ian Wood about the Cranbourne Public Hall. The Cranbourne Public Hall is in a bad state in that the upgrade works are only half completed with little or no work being undertaken at the moment. So my question is, could the Council consider purchasing this community facility from the state government? The Council could then consider, due to the state of the building, whether or not it is worthwhile to continue with the upgrade or just redevelop the whole site, as it is a great site for a community centre. The Director, City Planning and Infrastructure will respond.
Thank you for the question. The Cranbourne Public Hall is not owned or managed by Council, and Council is not considering purchasing this facility. Council takes a strategic approach to planning community infrastructure and is currently prioritising significant investment in the future Cranbourne Hub, which will deliver a major integrated community facility for the area. The hub will be ideally located to maximise accessibility to public transport and other uses, which will promote multi-trips to central Cranbourne.
The next question is submitted by Matthew McDonald about safety and traffic flow. If traffic signals are meant for future growth, why can't they keep up with traffic now? What plan does Casey have to help deal with traffic in the future, whether it's upgrading the intersection? The Director, City Planning and Infrastructure will respond.
Thank you for the question. Traffic signals are designed to manage current demand and future growth. While delays can occur due to rapid development, signal timing can be adjusted and coordinated along corridors to improve flow. Council will continue to monitor conditions and work with and advocate to the state government on upgrades and long-term improvements.
The next question is from Matthew McDonald about safety and traffic flow. With a rigid traffic signal layout replacing roundabouts, what specific modelling has been done to ensure CFA and ambulance vehicles from the nearby stations won't be trapped in the resulting gridlock during peak hours? Again, the City Planning and Infrastructure Director will respond.
Thank you for the question. Traffic modelling is undertaken to assess how a signalised intersection performs during peak periods, ensuring it accommodates all road users, including the safe and efficient movement of emergency services.
The next question is submitted by Michelle Duca about FOGO exemption. Can dwellings, rural and semi-rural, have exemption on FOGO service and charges to rates as dwellings have established recycling of organic waste? The Director, City Planning and Infrastructure will respond.
Thank you for the question. Council's residential waste charge covers the full suite of curbside services, including garbage, recycling, FOGO, glass and hard waste. As these services are provided as a standard package, exemptions are not available. However, households that opt for a smaller 80-litre garbage bin will receive a discounted rate. We understand that rural properties often already manage some waste on site. The FOGO bin has been effectively introduced in many rural councils, where it works alongside existing practices by providing an additional option for managing food and garden.
The next question is submitted by Anthony Tassone about the Australian Christian College Planning Permit Application, PA 26043888. The proposed expansion of Australian Christian College Casey in Cranbourne South from 125 to 1,500 students has significant implications for traffic, infrastructure, the environment and long-term planning objectives. Will Council review the application and lodge a formal submission to the Minister for Planning? And if so, will it make that submission public and clearly state whether it considers the proposal consistent with Casey's green wedge policies and strategic vision? The Director City Planning and Infrastructure will respond.
Thank you for the question. Council officers have reviewed the application and will make a submission to the Department of Transport and Planning. The submission has not been yet finalised, and key points from the submission will be made public through our regular media channels.
The next question from Anthony Tassone is about the Budget 2026-27 performance targets. The corporate suite of documents listed for adoption at this meeting target community satisfaction with consultation and engagement at 45 out of 100 for 26-27, below the 51 council forecasts to achieve this year. Given the same documents list governance and transparency as a strategic priority and were materially changed after public exhibition closed, why is Council proposing to adopt a target that plans for community engagement satisfaction to decline? To which I will respond. Thank you for your question regarding the projected target for community consultation and engagement satisfaction. Community satisfaction targets are reviewed annually and are informed by a range of inputs, including recent media sentiment, benchmarking data from comparable councils, and the published results of the annual Community Satisfaction Survey. This ensures that targets remain evidence-based and reflect both internal performance trends and the broader operating environment. The target set for 2026-27 reflects a transparent and realistic estimate of expected outcomes at a point in time, taking into account current results, external conditions and the maturity of process improvements underway. Council's approach is to set targets that demonstrate achievable and incremental improvement over time, rather than overstating expected gains. A number of initiatives aimed at improving consultation practices, accessibility and the quality of engagement are being implemented and will continue to be rolled out across 2026-27 and 2027-28. The next question is submitted by Scott Watson about the Hallam Road landfill site future. Following the successful community opposition to the proposed Hallam Road waste transfer station, will Council confirm whether it intends to endorse or revisit the original plans for the Hallam Road landfill precinct? Specifically, will Council commit to retaining and protecting as much open green space as possible in this area, consistent with previous commitments and communications provided to residents regarding the future use and rehabilitation of the site? The Director, City Planning and Infrastructure will respond.
Thank you for the question. Council will consider the 2026-2029 Land Use Strategy Work Plan this evening at Agenda Item 5.3. The work plan identifies the Hampton Park Hill precinct as a key priority, with strategic planning work proposed to commence in 2026-2027. This work will help Council better understand the future of the precinct and inform what the next steps may look like. We will keep the community informed as this work progresses.
The next question is from Lorraine Gillies about the Browns Road roadworks in Devon Meadows. Can Council provide an update on the roadworks on Browns Road, Devon Meadows between Craig Road and the South Gippsland Highway? Signage near the roadworks previously indicated that these works would be completed by the end of April, then revised to the end of May. We are now in mid-June and there is no clear indication of a completion date. What is the current expected completion timeframe and what has caused the delays? The Director, City Planning and Infrastructure will respond.
Thank you for the question. This is a Melbourne Water project and it has experienced some delays. These matters are outside of Council's control and have resulted in extra works being necessary. The current traffic management plan will remain in place in the short term while these works are completed, and the project is now expected to be finished by the end of July, subject to weather conditions. Council appreciates the community's patience and understanding as this project is finalised.
The next question is submitted from Gillian Nambu about the Rivergum Ward being neglected once again. Why is Rivergum Ward being neglected by the budget again? It feels like Hampton Park, Lynbrook and Cranbourne North are usually left out. The Director City Planning and Infrastructure will respond.
Thank you for the question. Decisions about capital works are not made based on ward boundaries. Instead, projects are prioritised based on things like asset condition, safety risk, community demand, and where infrastructure is due for renewal. This helps us make sure facilities across the whole municipality, including established areas, continue to meet the expected level of service. There are also several projects planned for 2026-27 in this ward, including the redevelopment of the netball courts at Robert Booth Reserve, renewal works at Arthur Wren Hall, a new play space at Parnham Place, renewal of the synthetic pitch at Cairns Road, and improvements at Rivergum Wetlands Reserve.
And the next question is from Gillian Nambu about terminations. When was the last time council staff received training on policy, on staff warnings and termination? The Director, Customer and Corporate Services will respond.
Thank you, Gillian, for your question. Our People and Culture team provide development coaching to strengthen leadership skills, knowledge and capability. All leaders undertake mandatory training to ensure they understand and meet our workplace and employee conduct policies and work closely with the People and Culture team to ensure appropriate processes are followed.
Mayor, that concludes our public questions for this evening. We received 15 questions. Out of those 15, one was ruled invalid, and the following submitter was notified of that decision, and that was Matthew McDonald. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. And that is the completion of public questions. So we will now move into our officer reports at item 5. So there are 8 officer reports this evening. And the first item on the agenda, 5.1, is the adoption of the suite of corporate planning documents. And to introduce this report, we have Marion Grigg, Manager of Strategy, Innovation and Transformation. Marion, over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. So this report is seeking Council's adoption of the 2026-27 suite of corporate planning documents, which include the Annual Action Plan, the Budget and Capital Works Program and the 10-year financial plan. These documents have been developed in accordance with the Local Government Act and have been informed by community engagement undertaken during the public exhibition period. The draft documents were released for consultation between late April and mid-May. We saw strong engagement with over 1,800 visits to the consultation page and 17 formal submissions, with a number of submitters speaking at the May Council meeting. That feedback has been carefully considered and reflected in the final versions presented tonight. The Annual Action Plan outlines the key initiatives for the year ahead and is directly aligned to the Council Plan. It focuses on delivering practical outcomes for the community, including improving road safety, investing in community and recreation infrastructure, strengthening arts and culture activation, progressing environmental sustainability, and improving how our customers access and experience council services. The 26-27 budget has been prepared in line with legislative requirements and maintains financial sustainability while continuing to respond to community needs. It incorporates the state government's rate cap of 2.75% and will raise approximately $357 million in rates and charges. Importantly, hardship provisions remain in place with flexible payment options and support available for those experiencing financial difficulty. Councillors will also note increases in waste service charges. These largely reflect service growth, the continued rollout of curbside reforms, and rising external costs such as landfill levies and contract pricing. The Capital Works program represents a significant $136.5 million investment, strikes a balance between renewing existing assets and delivering new infrastructure to support growth. This includes major projects such as community hubs, recreation facilities, road upgrades and streetscape improvements. The final document is the 10-year financial plan. This provides a longer-term framework to ensure Council can sustainably deliver on its strategic objectives, sets clear financial parameters while remaining adaptable to circumstances as they change. It should be noted that the report also notes amendments that have been made since the public exhibition of the documents, with some amendments to improve to capital improve value, some minor adjustments to capital works items and to their accounting treatment, and others in response to the public exhibition process and the submissions received from our community. In summary, this suite of documents provides a well-balanced, financially responsible and community-focused plan for the year ahead and beyond, and officers recommend that Council adopt the documents as presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Marion. Councillors, do we have any questions for the officer in relation to the report? No questions? Not a problem. Thank you, Marion. We will now move to a motion. We've got a recommendation on the screen. Do we have a mover and a seconder for the recommendation? Councillor Pereira moving. And do we have a seconder for the
So
recommendation?
I'd like to move that with an amendment, please, Mr
Yep.
Mayor.
Sure.
I believe
we
the
have-
officers can put the amendment up on the screen.
So we have an amendment.
My amendment is simply in relation to the capital works projects in my ward. And, yeah, my ward being Rivergum Ward. Yep.
We'll bring that up on the screen. You're welcome to introduce it or speak about your amendment now if you like, but we will
Oh,
bring that.
it's just a rearrangement, a redistribution of the funding in my ward, just a little bit more fair distribution to be able to achieve more items, particularly in relation to the submissions received from community members, which I'm very pleased that, we've acted, the officers and myself have worked hard, and with Mr Mayor, thank you, have worked hard to try to deliver some more projects. And also, the Mayor's also been kind enough to share some of his funding from his ward to improve some of the projects in mine as well. So it's all up there. That's the only change I'm making. Everything else will remain.
Thank you, Councillor Pereira. I'll second that amendment. So we have a motion with a proposed amendment. Is there anyone to speak against this amendment? So we'll work through, there might be multiple amendments, but we'll work through the amendments one by one. So we've got one, a motion as per the recommendation, plus an amendment that Councillor Pereira has put, which I've seconded. If there's no one speaking against it, I'll put this amendment to a vote. So we're voting now just on the proposed amendment in the yellow to have that included into the motion in full, which we will then consider, and then we can consider further amendments as necessary. So the amendment on the screen, I'll put that to a vote now. All those in favour of including this amendment, please raise your hands. Thank you, councillors. That is passed unanimously. So now we have that amendment in addition to the report. So we've got on the screen an amendment, a motion now, a standing motion which we can debate. Are there any further amendments anyone would like to propose?
Through you, Mayor, I have an amendment for Greville Ward that I'd like to put forward, if possible.
Councillor Perry has got an amendment. Would you like to introduce your amendment? We can try and get that on
Yep.
this.
So I'm just requesting to remove some spend from Wilson Botanic Park. With the budget submission process in last month's council meeting, I just want to take out some unnecessary spend in the park. They're all listed there. I won't go through them, but I'm retaining all the projects that relate to safety, asset renewal, and the irrigation project that's currently halfway through in the park. I'm just talking about 3. This is not my one. Yeah. Cool. There's 3 non-urgent projects, which we'll see in a second. So they're non-urgent, but they might be impacted by future work in terms of a strategic review to the master plan. I just want to foreshadow as a future notice of motion to deal with a few issues that have arisen. So I'm going to write, is this it? Yeah, this is it. Yep. So just read through that. I'll keep speaking. Just tell me to stop when we need to move on. But I just want to update the current master plan so we can reflect community wishes and values, and also note that future consideration of capital works at Wilson Botanic Park, including progressing the design, procurement and delivery of the Kramer Drive overflow car park, will be informed by and subject to the outcomes of the master plan and a further report to council. I think you're probably well aware the Kramer Drive overflow car park plan is unpopular with our community. It compromises.
Yeah, Councillor Perry, point of order, Councillor Ross, if you could, I presume that's in terms of sticking to the motion relevancy, yeah? If you could just stick to the motion at hand, which is the budget documents. I know you've made comment to what you'll be doing in future.
I'll speak to the notice of motion next week, or next
okay,
month,
next
that's
month.
fine. But yeah, so there's only 3 projects that we're removing. It's the visitor centre pathway upgrade of 105,000, renewal of the fountain as you walk in, and the retaining wall at the entrance, 200,000, and just some non-essential or non-safety related projects in the depot area. Everything else is retained as per the budget.
Thank you, Councillor Perry. Now, in order for that amendment to be included, we need to seek permission from the mover. Councillor Pereira.
That's fine, thank you, I'm happy with
Will
that.
accept that. So with willingness to accept, so a mover and a seconder of this additional amendment, is there anyone who has firstly any questions in relation to this amendment for Councillor Perry or officers, or is there anyone opposed? This is not for voting, it's just noting is there someone, if there's someone opposed, then we can proceed to debate in relation to this proposed amendment. So we've got a mover and a seconder for this amendment. We've also got people in opposition, so I'll now open debate to speak to this amendment. So I will now ask Councillor, I'll just check with governance. Yeah, so the mover of the motion of the amendment is Councillor Perry. Did you wish to speak to just the amendment that you're putting forward?
I
know
think
you've
I've already
introduced
spoken to
Yep.
it, yeah. I just want to remove those 3 projects for now.
Thank you, Councillor Perry. As second, Councillor Pereira, did you want to speak to this amendment?
Just very briefly, I do support this. I think it's a sensible way forward. And yeah, there's a community angst around a lot of these things, but these particular parts of the budget, I think we can put off for the time being. I'm happy with that. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Pereira. Now, those in opposition to this amendment, do you wish to speak? Councillor Dowling.
Excuse me, sorry about that, Mayor. Through you, Mayor, yes, I think that the strategic plan that we've come up with for Wilson's Park is actually a good plan. It doesn't need altering at all. The majority of the people I've spoken to that use the park every day, people I know, people I don't know, people I've just bumped into cordially on my way around there, all think that certain aspects of what we're renewing and doing in fixing up the park and what we need to do to attract people to it more in the future. We're up to nearly 1 million visitors a year at this park, and over the last 5 or 6 years, it's doubled, tripled, quadrupled. It's just going up and up because the park is a fantastic name amongst most people in the wider metropolitan area. So there needs to be a concerted effort from everyone to make sure that the park is available for more people and designed with generations to come.
Projects, mate.
Point of order.
Sorry, I've still got some time here.
Just,
No, you don't
sorry,
have-
Councillor
you don't
Dowling,
have
you have a
time.
point of order, Councillor Perry?
Yeah, just focus on the 3 projects.
So relevancy, I think the councillor
it's
is speaking
relevant.
to the motion. Councillor Dowling, please continue.
Yeah, it also has enormous benefit to the wider business community in Berwick as well. There's a lot of lunch shops and businesses that really do well on long weekends and special events that we do have at the park as well from time to time, which is outdoor cinemas, bands, and we're looking at ways to expand that offering as well. So it's only going to get bigger. It's good for Berwick and it's good for the small business in Berwick as well.
Thank you, Councillor Dowling. Would anyone else wish to speak to this amendment before we put it to a vote? Councillor Walter?
Through your Mayor, with this particular amendment, I don't disagree with all of it. There's just a couple of the points, mainly A and B. A, because I do know there are some potential trip hazards with this pathway, and I would like to mitigate those at all costs, because we don't want anyone tripping and falling ever in any of our parks. And with B, with the master plan, the fountain and canal are very unlikely to move. So if they need to be restored, we might as well restore it now rather than wait till afterwards. And then they'll be in worse shape and potentially cost more money. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walter. Would any other councillors wish to speak to the amendment? Councillor Ross?
Can I ask a question
Uh,
regarding what's been raised?
Yes, you can.
What Councillor Walter's been raised, because I think my understanding was that the officers collaborated with putting these up because these were non-essential and non-health and safety risk projects that could be taken out of the budget. So I'd just like that confirmed, because that goes against what Councillor Walter has pointed out about these two.
Kerry New, officer, are you able to? Oh. Yep, Catherine, sorry.
Through the Mayor. Whilst it's important that the highly essential safety elements are retained, and that has definitely been worked through, what we had worked on was the discretionary projects in the budget, which the three identified were included within. It doesn't mean that they're not required. They are just able to be deferred without significant impact. However, the discussion is correct around what's that trade-off between the renewal aspects of these projects.
Thank you, Catherine Surlis. Councillors, any further questions? While we've got the Director ready to answer. No further questions. Any other speakers in relation just to this amendment, just adding this amendment or not to the motion on the screen? No further speaker. Oh, Councillor Pereira.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to ask a question relating to what Councillor Dowling was saying, that this will be attracting more and more and more people, as the city's exponentially growing. Can this site accommodate such levels of visitors? This is the basic question.
I might refer to the officers here, but I would question the relevancy perhaps just to the amendment at hand. There is obviously a number of issues and interest in this particular site, but in terms of the amendment on the screen, Mr. Callum Paddy.
Through you, Mayor, the site itself can accommodate the levels and the numbers of visitors. We do have some issues around parking. That's very clear, and that's pretty consistent in terms of community feedback. But in terms of the broader site around usage, the site itself can accommodate the numbers that are coming through.
Thank you for that, officer. Any further speakers before we put this amendment to a vote?
Sorry,
Thank
can I
you.
just ask a question? Do I vote?
Absolutely, you
Yeah.
vote. All councillors vote. I suggest we have an indication of where you might vote, but we will certainly include your vote. And on that note, I will put this amendment to a vote. This is just to include this amendment as on the screen in yellow to add that to the substantive motion we have. All those in favour of doing so, please raise your hands. Keep your hands raised, please, councillors. Councillor Pereira, Councillor Eves, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Ambrose, Councillor Cooman, Councillor Perry, Councillor Crowther, Councillor Ross, please put your hands down. And Councillor Dizon, I did notice you there, my apologies. So Councillor Dizon in favour, and all those against, please raise your hands. Councillor Dowling, Councillor Rowe, Councillor Walter. That amendment has been carried, so that will now form part of the substantive budget motion we have on our screen now. Yep. Are there any further amendments? No further amendments at this stage, so we will take a slight pause just because of the volume of text and amendments. We're going to bring that on the screen for everyone here and those watching online. So we'll take a short...
Through you, Mayor, I would like to foreshadow an alternative motion. Is this the time to do it?
Excellent time, yep. While we get that up, we will... you're welcome to... One moment. Councillor Crowther, we will allow you to foreshadow in future, but we have to have the mover speak first before any foreshadowing can take place. We do now have the combined two amendments on the screen. So we've got a, no, not yet. Apologies for the delay. We'll wait for this to get up on the screen. It is. It is longer than the screen, but the motion is on the screen and we have seen both amendments, so I'm comfortable proceeding now to debate. And with the motion on the screen, I'll now ask the mover, Councillor Pereira, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. My community is really desperate for these developments, and I've been working hard to try to deliver something that they can be proud of. We don't have a lot in my ward. We've got the landfill that we've been suffering with, and we've got a few reserves. We don't have a lot of, you know, the other nice sort of facilities that the other wards have gotten. So I'm very keen for this to go ahead. I know there's lots of people that are watching and hoping that we might be able to get this done for my ward. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pereira. One. Councillor Pereira, just noting you did have time, did you wish to speak to the broader budget documents rather than just your amendment? You're welcome. This is the time we're debating the substantive motion.
Yep, sure. Look, I am happy with the budget. Once again, we've kept it under the rate cap at 2.75%, which is challenging in these times. The officers have done well to keep our rates as low as possible. Costs of living, of course, is there. We all understand that. We have hardship provisions for people who are struggling to contact the council to please get put on rate payment plans and don't get the interest. I think the waste charge, I don't think it's really that much of an increase, to be honest. I think it's about $50, $60, not even that. I don't think that's enough to really worry about. I think this is part of life. Costs are going to go up. And the action plan, just very briefly, once again, you know, we're focusing on things, community safety, how much we can do as a council. We do the best we can. Obviously, we need police, state government to help us with these things. We are aware that, you know, rising crime and all these sort of things is there. We'll do whatever we can to assist with that. That's it. I think that's all I really want to say. Thank you. I'm happy with this offering for this budget. Good budget.
Thank you, Councillor Pereira. I'll just have confirmation. Councillor Crowther, did you wish to foreshadow at this point?
Yes, through you, Mayor. I oppose the motion on the screen and would like to foreshadow an alternative motion to return more of the waste reserve funds to our community at a time when they need it most and freeze the waste charges this year. In this upcoming financial year, the state government, do you just want me to introduce it at this point? Yeah?
Yep.
So the alternative motion, do we need to consider the first motion first before we... Should I stop now? Or?
It's just an outline of what you would foreshadow, yep.
Yep, so I am proposing that we utilise more of the waste reserves in this upcoming year to a total of just over 7.4 million, so that we can counteract the expensive and unprecedented waste reform costs that are coming in this upcoming financial year and reduce the burden on Casey households.
Thank you, Councillor Crowther. I will now ask Councillor Perry, did you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Any further speakers? This is in relation to the whole budget. Just to remind everyone, we have a substantive motion on the screen. Now, Councillor Perry, this is for the whole budget. You spoke to your amendment when you introduced it just on that item, but there are obviously a lot of other items in the budget. Did you wish to speak? No, no. You can waive your rights to speak if you like.
Can I speak?
Yep, not a problem. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Councillor Crowther.
Through you, Mayor, I oppose the motion on the screen, and as I said, I'm foreshadowing an alternative motion to return more of the waste reserve funds to our communities when they need it most and freeze the waste charges this year. In this upcoming financial year, the state government is imposing unprecedented curbside reforms with new bins and the most expensive glass recycling method. Casey ratepayers have accumulated significant waste reserves, which is currently sitting in the bank. The current budget that's on the screen that we're considering now shows that at the end of next financial year, there'll still be $1.7 million sitting in the waste reserves. These are the community savings sitting in the bank. My proposed alternative motion returns these funds to our community to reduce the financial burden of the upcoming curbside reforms and reduce further strain on Casey households by freezing the waste rates this upcoming year.
Thank you, Councillor Crowther. So just to recap, we've got a substantive motion on the screen, which includes the two amendments which were individually voted on. This is for people at home as well as councillors here. So we now have a motion which we are debating, which is the full budget. So we now are asking for debate and contributions in relation to the full budget with amendments. We've heard from Councillor Pereira. Councillor Perry has waived, and then Councillor Crowther has spoken in opposition. So now the floor is open. Anyone can speak to the motion on the screen. Do we have any further speakers? Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor. So I just want to note that the budget is a result of many hours of work and collaboration and discussion between councillors, community and the officers. So everything has been looked at. It doesn't mean it's perfect because there is always compromise. But overall, we've done our best to present a transparent document so the community can have a look at what work is going to be undertaken in the following year. There's just a couple of things I would like to point out, some ward specific and some general. So ward specific to Casuarina, we have renewal works at Oak Grove Community Centre. We have work on the Hallam Valley Trail, including Sweeney Reserve Trail connections, which is a big plus for active transport in Casey. And we have investment continuing at Sweeney Reserve with floodlighting upgrades, which provide both club-specific and general community benefits. It's going to enable more people to participate in sport, support the club growth and maximise use of the reserve, particularly during winter months. You'll note that a lot of things in the budget are aimed at increasing utilisation of council facility and services, and not forgetting Max Pawsey cricket net renewal. Overall, more specifically to the broader community, can I flag an increase in time, please, Mr Mayor?
Granted, Councillor Ross.
Two community-wide initiatives, which I've proudly taken an active advocacy role in, are both an investment in the environment with a target of 25,000 trees and 175,000 shrubs over the next 2 years, and a mental health roundtable, which is being held later this year, co-designed by our young adults. And in relation to the waste, I fully support, as outlined in the budget, and if it does come back to be put forward as an alt motion, I will speak further to it then, but I believe it's a very prudent decision to the way it's outlined at the moment, and that losing the buffer would be very poor financial management. It'd be like dipping into your household reserves. Sorry, I will start again. Dipping into our reserves for recurrent spending would be like using your savings account to pay for your groceries on a weekly basis. So yes, I fully support the motion as it is to pass the budget.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Any other speakers? Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. The cost of living continues to put real pressure on household budgets, and that context matters when we talk about this budget. Council has a responsibility to deliver the services, infrastructure and facilities that a growing city like Casey needs, but we also need to be honest about the impact of rising costs on our residents. While the general rate increase sits at 2.75%, what many households will notice more is the total waste charge. Much of this increase comes from the new state government requirements around glass recycling and food and green waste services. These may be considered positive steps environmentally, but we cannot ignore the financial impact on our residents. It is fair for the residents to ask whether more could be done to ease this burden. That is why I will support Councillor Crowther's alternate motion to freeze the waste charges. For those experiencing genuine hardship, I encourage you to reach out. Support is available through the council, and no one should feel uncomfortable asking for help. Importantly, this budget also delivers real investment into our community, from safety initiatives and youth programs to food relief, better lighting, upgraded facilities, and improved roads, parks and open spaces. We are also supporting local businesses and advocating for more jobs close to home. No budget is perfect, but our responsibility is to balance growth with affordability and to always keep the needs of our community front of mind. At the end of the day, this is not just about numbers, it's about people. The families, workers, retirees, and young people who call Casey home. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Any further speakers? Got a question from Councillor Pereira, because you will have a right of reply, but you have a question?
Thank you. No, this is a question I think it's important for us to know. Can I please ask you through, Mr Mayor, ask through you, what is the actual increase in dollar amount for the waste charge per household?
Councillor Pereira. We have Chief Financial Officer Melissa Baker to speak to answer the question.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. The budget is advertised. The increase for a 120 litre bin, including green waste service, was $12 per household.
Follow-up question, Councillor Pereira.
For all, that's for the green bin, but for the whole waste charge, like how much would it be for each house with all of the bins?
Yeah, that's right. That's the whole waste charge. We managed to offset that by drawing down $3 million from the reserves.
Councillor Taylor with a question.
So what is the total waste charge, though, increase?
Through you, Mayor. The waste charge varies between the different categories, and it's outlined in the motion, all the different categories of waste charge that we have. But the largest increase was the one that I just mentioned of $12. Some of the waste charges have gone up by $9, $8. I've got one of $3, one of $5.
Okay. Is it correct that we're looking at 11% increase across the board?
I'm sorry, through you, Mayor, I'm not quite sure what you're referring to.
Thank you.
I'll correct that through the Mayor. I think that the increase was at 2% and a bit across the board.
2.6, yep. Is this further questions? Councillor Reeves.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just wondering how much of a savings, if we agree to this motion, how much of a savings would it be to the typical household?
Through you, Mayor, it would bring the charge down from $480 down to $468. So it would be a further $12 savings.
So we'd only save $12?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reeves. Councillor Dowling.
Comment, if I may, Mayor.
Would you like to speak to the motion? This would be your speaking
yeah.
allocation. Yep. Councillor Dowling.
It's about reducing the reserve. I don't agree with it. I think reducing the reserve to around 300K will significantly limits council's ability to manage these fluctuations that we get in other projects. This means council may be unable to absorb in a year cost increases and would need to find savings from services or capital projects if costs exceed available funds. It also exposes residents to a larger, less predictable cost increase in future years rather than running smoothly over time, as it has previously done. While the intention to reduce costs is understood, the motion introduces greater financial risk for only a modest short-term saving. Thank you.
Councillor Dowling, just noting that is your speaking time. I know you've spoken to the foreshadowed motion, but would you like to speak to the budget in full? This is your opportunity on time to speak to the motion presented.
The budget has been worked out, of course, by us over a period of the last 12 months, and I think it's a very good budget. We've achieved pretty much what we thought would be best for the community, and there are some things added on, I guess, for the certain ward councillors that believe that they may need more or whatever the thing may be. But we always discuss that, and this is why we have open debate on a Tuesday night. I think it's a good budget. I think the points raised are exactly how the people feel. We are all very different. There's 12 councillors here, 6 girls, 6 guys. I mean, it is just the way it worked out, and we're all from different backgrounds, and we all have different things that we like to see and talk about. If we find something that we disagree with, we discuss it robustly with ourselves where we can, and we make our decisions based on that. I'm quite happy with everything else. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dowling. Any further speakers? Councillor Ambrose.
Through you, Mayor, this budget is a responsible financial management and also is about delivering real outcomes for our community. I'm pleased to see significant level investment in Calora Ward. I want to acknowledge the residents, clubs and community groups who've worked with me over the past year to shape these priorities. Calora residents have often expressed concerns of being forgotten. As you can see across Calora, we're seeing long overdue renewal, a renewal reserve, the pavilion upgrade. We finally supported the growth of local sport. A Sydney Partridge Reserve, the new pavilion development is a major investment that reflects years of advocacy from residents and sporting groups. Singleton Reserve will receive a play-based renewal that families have been asking for. Barry Simons Reserves will see upgraded sports lighting and support safer participation. I also want to highlight the work that Endeavour Hills Soccer Club, the residents and club volunteers and community leaders have been clear about the need for improved facilities, and I've worked closely with them, with the state representations to ensure their needs are heard. Seeing these projects progress is a direct result of that collaboration. Good governance requires us to have balanced renewal and with responsibility. Residents expect the money to be respected and expect us to make decisions based on that evidence and not based on evidence, not assumptions. Just flagging with you, man, I would like an extension of time.
Granted, Councillor Ambrose.
That's why I would like to hear further of Councillor Michelle Crowther's alternative motion and the points that she raised. By utilising the additional proportion of race reserves, the amendment proposed a freeze on rates increases for residents by maintaining a responsible balance reserved. It is particular financial sound option that should have eased cost of living pressures without compromising service delivery. Council delivers more than 100 services, maintains $8.7 billion in community assets. There are significant responsibilities, and this budget reflects the need to manage them carefully while still investing in the places people live, play and connect. I want to thank the residents who've shared their views with me. Your feedback has shaped my advocacy, and it's reflected on the outcomes before us tonight. When people see the rates being spent in their own community, trust grows, and this is good governance. Thank you for your trusting me with your voice.
Thank you, Councillor Ambrose. Councillor Dizon.
Through you, Mayor, I'd like to speak in response to the foreshadowed motion by Councillor Crowther. Whilst I support the amendments proposed by Councillor Pereira and Councillor Perry, and do not disagree with the full corporate suite of documents, with me being pleased with a very strong pipeline of capital works I am delivering for my residents in Torridon Ward, like Councillor Crowther and Councillor Taylor, I would also like to deliver a freeze on waste charges until the end of the next financial year, which is currently not addressed in this current motion before us. I too am very mindful of the increasing cost of living pressures facing our residents. While we unfortunately cannot opt out of the mandated curbside reforms. I was hoping that by freezing on waste charges, no matter how little it is that was being said before, we can reduce their financial impact on Casey households. I will speak more about this should Councillor Crowther's alternate motion go through. However, I cannot support this budget before us, or this motion before us, without the waste charges being frozen. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Dazon. Would any other councillors wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Perry.
Yeah, this is an unprecedented change to collection. Obviously, the reserve is there because we have to suck it up, I guess, when waste charges change. You know, if state government or business that we work with needs to increase the rate. I think now what Councillor Crowther is putting forward is us doing that for our residents. I'll speak further on it if it gets through. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perry. Any further speakers? Councillor Ross.
Can I ask a question?
Question, yes.
Yeah. Through you, Mayor. I'm wondering if it happens that we end up debating the motion that's been foreshadowed and we have an unpredictable EPA charge because we know that it's the legislation is not stagnant. It is quite unpredictable, and we don't have the reserves there to cover unforeseen charges. What would happen? What happens then?
Ask the CFO to respond.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Yes, we can have large fluctuations in the EPA levy. In the 25-26 budget, we allowed for a 28% increase in the EPA levy. So the levy went up from the 24-25 budget from 9.8 million to 12.5 million. Because we drew down 3 million from the reserve that year, we were able to soften the effect on ratepayers for that year. Should we get another increase like that for next year, for the following budget, we would not have the amount in reserves to buffer it, and residents would feel the full cost impact.
Councillor Reeves.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
If diesel fuels remain high, are we likely to incur a further charge that we'd normally pay out of the waste reserve fund?
Through you, Mayor. Yes, if we do have a call by one of the suppliers who has a legitimate claim for an increase in fuel costs, then we would have to find the savings throughout the year to fund that. The following year, the increased costs would then be passed back to the resident, resulting in a larger increase in the following year, as we would not be able to smooth the effect.
Can I ask another question, please?
Councillor Reeves.
In the previous years, what sort of unexpected payments have we paid? What was the cause of them? Like battery fires, and did they come out of that fund for the new trucks that had to be bought?
Through you, Mayor, yes, the waste reserve has been there to smooth the effect on residents for that. We did have some savings a couple of years ago in expenditure, which we were able to boost the reserve with, but we have been using that reserve to pass those savings back to the ratepayers, as we knew that the rollout of the new waste scheme would occur over these few years.
One final question.
Councillor Reeves.
If we don't have that reserve there, or if there's insufficient funds, once we've handed out a $12 discount to each household, what kind of services will be cut? Will it just be waste services, or will it be like maternal health services, something like that? Sort of what services will be cut to pay for it?
Through you, Mayor, we would have to find savings throughout the operational or the capital budget to fund the gap.
So it could be from anywhere. It'd just have to be cut.
Through you, Mayor, we would provide a responsible suggestion for where to find those savings.
But it will mean cuts to services. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question for you, Melissa, in terms of recovering any charges, if there was to be unforeseen increases in waste charges, could they be recouped in future waste charges so that they're charged back to residents as they're incurred rather than just accruing reserves to cover them?
You would be, in effect, hitting people with a double whammy should their costs increase for the service the following year, because they would be paying for the increase in the previous year as well.
Are you able to explain what you mean by double whammy? Because my understanding is the waste charge is direct costs passed on to residents in their waste charge. So whatever it costs is charged. For me, my understanding is the reserves are taking rates in advance to then pay for those costs rather than...
Not really. It's not really taking rates in advance. It's balancing the difference between the income collected and the expenditure spent. So we could have money into the reserve because costs were lower than what we thought they were. So we would top up the reserve for that because we have to come at a cost neutral basis at the end of the year. So should we go into the 27-28 year and we have a rise on say the EPA levy or another state government mandated levy, we would have that increase on the waste charge, plus we would have to catch up from any deficit in the 26-27 financial year to true up over the 2 years. Does that help?
I think that does answer the question. I think fundamentally my question is, it appears to me that we're either charging residents now to have a buffer, or we can wait until the expense is incurred and then charge them when that expense is actually incurred. Is that correct?
No, we can't charge them when the expense is actually incurred because we strike the budget before the financial year. So in order for us to change the waste charge, we would have to go back to the community with a revised budget and go through this process again in order to change the service charge. It's just like striking the rate.
Further question, but the next budget, if there are additional charges, they will be charged then. Is that correct?
Yes, but what you were referring to, correct me if I'm wrong, would be any increase in the following year plus a catch-up from this year if we had, say, a call for fuel costs for diesel.
Yes, if that was to occur,
Yeah.
it would be charged in the following year.
Yep, so they'd be basically paying for one cost increase plus the one that we didn't have a buffer for from this year.
Rather than paying it in advance.
No, they're not paying it in advance.
Well, you're paying it into a reserve that then the council is holding on to that money to then pay for future unanticipated costs.
We don't budget to put anything in the reserve. We budget for a cost neutral service. So we budget for what income we expect to get and we budget for what we expect the service to cost us, what new residents we think will come on board during the year, and resultantly what income that we expect to receive has to come to a zero balance. So we don't budget to put money aside for this. Otherwise, the waste charge, we would be collecting more than what we're spending. But because we've had situations where, say, the rate of developments is higher than what we've estimated, or where we have had savings in contracts, things have been lower, so we've had a gap where the income has exceeded the expenditure, and we've put that money into the reserve.
Yep. Thank you. I think that's answered my question. Any further questions, councillors? Councillor Pereira?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just want to also elaborate, there's a part there about the increase in the landfill levy, but I'm just curious because we don't know what sort of parameters we'd be looking at. Is that correct? We really don't know what will happen when the Hallam Road landfill will close, how this will affect us with the landfill levy.
I'm happy, through you, Mayor, to take that one. Correct, Councillor Pereira. There is a lot of matters to be resolved in the waste realm over the next 12, 18, 24 months. That's correct.
Councillor Ross?
Through you, Mayor. So just a question in regards, we're talking about unpredictability of the state government, but we're also living in an unpredictable environment geopolitically. And we've had discussions before about not knowing what might happen with the price of diesel, and it still is likely or certainly possible that we will see increases. So I'm just curious about the likelihood, and the question is around the impact that that may have on our existing reserves.
Take that as a comment, or is that...
No, it's just a question regarding what has been done and what risk, or what is your best guess about if we have an increase, how that's going to impact on our existing reserves?
Through you, Mayor. Yes, it is unpredictable at the moment. I think we all know, going through the COVID pandemic, that we saw an increase in different costs, particularly construction costs. We're in a bit of an environment at the moment where we're not sure how the situation in Iran will unfold, how that will affect our diesel prices, as well as possibly the cost of capital projects. We are exposed as well with different state government reforms that we don't receive a lot of advance notice for. So it can be highly unpredictable, and having 300,000 left in the reserve is not much of a buffer for things to change.
One more question, Ms Baker. Just for absolute clarity, any charges that are incurred in relation to waste are recouped through the waste charge and not paid for by ratepayers through rates. It's paid through the waste charge alone. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
So residents receive their rates notice. It's made up of their general rates. It's made up of their waste service charge and also the ESVF payments to the state government.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? No further speakers. Look, I'll make a contribution. I think I'm the final speaker here. So obviously seconded Councillor Pereira's motion and amendment, and very supportive of that. And overall, I'm incredibly supportive of the budget that we've put together over the last 6 months or so. A lot of effort has gone in, and I think it's good to reflect on that. I'm also supportive of the amendment from Councillor Perry. But given the debate, I will be voting down this motion because I do believe there is an opportunity here to provide some relief to residents. It's not a huge amount, but I think the foreshadowed motion from Councillor Crowther is a sound one. Fundamentally, I think money back in residents' pockets is better than sitting on our balance sheet. And if we're able to freeze the waste charge, that's a positive thing, and that's a commitment I made to keep rates and charges as low as we possibly can. And looking back at previous financial years, we had upwards of $7 million sitting in a waste reserve, resident money sitting on council's balance sheet. We may as well give that back. And what's clear from the officers is that if there are additional charges, unexpected, if Trump makes a decision that puts diesel up, well, we will have to charge that onto residents, but we're better off charging that after the fact rather than holding on to your money now and sitting on it in case something happens. So I'm comfortable that's a good financial decision to take that action and to freeze the waste charge. So I will vote against this, but given that may not succeed, I'm happy to speak a little bit more to the budget itself. Firstly, and I will grant myself an extension if I can be so generous to myself, but this is a very big item for us. This is our budget. This determines everything that we do, and officers will go and deliver on behalf of our community over the next 12 months. So I think for me, one of the keys of this budget has been consultation. We heard the submissions last month. I want residents to know that we did have a number of meetings. We went through each and every one, lots of debate, and as you've seen, there's been some significant changes made. I was very supportive of Councillor Pereira's changes. We met with the Lynbrook Residents Association recently and heard from them. They're clearly on the ground and they know their community. So to be able to make these tweaks that residents are supportive of, I'm supportive of doing that. There were some other submissions that were made that we just simply couldn't do. We've got people wanting more investment. We saw that in the public questions, but then at the same time, we've got people wanting rate cuts. And we can't deliver it all. We've got to find the balance. And I think we found that in this document. And, if this doesn't get up, then we've got the ability to deliver some waste charge relief as well. So I'll be voting this down with the hope that we'll be able to go through with a change to the waste charge and then get the budget up. That's probably it from me, because there may be more debate on this, but yeah, I won't be supporting this motion that we have on the screen. Councillor Dowling, you have spoken. Do you have a question? But yeah, just a question.
How much was the saving per household again for the waste charge?
Through you, Mayor, the original budget as advertised had a cost increase to the average resident of $12. So if we had a zero freeze, it would be a $12 savings.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
So voting it down would jeopardise the extra reserve we would have if something was to go wrong and we needed money for other capital projects that fell over for one reason or another, maybe more expensive fuel or
I believe that's unrelated to capital projects, but...
no, it's not. The reserve can be used to...
I might...
All right, sorry, I'll leave it to
CFO
the...
Through you, Mayor. No, we cannot use the reserve for anything other than the waste service, but should we fall short of funding the waste service itself, we need to find the cash to pay for it.
That's right. That's how it affects it.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that was my point. That's how it affects other capital projects.
And just to clarify, Ms Baker, that cash would be found, but then those costs would be, it could be recouped at the next budget from residents with an increased waste charge.
That's correct, along with any other increases that happen.
Thank you. Any further questions, councillors, or before we go to right of reply for Councillor Pereira? I've got a question from Councillor Ross.
I do have a question, because I understand that this motion could be coming from trying to be seen to be help residents, although $12 a year. My question is, are there other ways that we could reduce the amount of money that we spend on waste? Because this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to save money for the residents.
It's probably just in terms of relevancy to this, the item at hand, that is quite an open-ended question. I might, I'm going to have to rule that out. You can reframe the question if you like, but just noting that that is a very broad question that opens up probably a whole different form of debate. And also, we aren't debating the alt rec. I know there's been a lot of contributions on that, but we are debating the motion at hand. Everyone has had a chance to speak. So, Councillor Pereira, I believe you have a question before right of reply?
Yes, quickly. Because we've already voted on this and it was unanimously supported, my question is, should this fail now, do we have the opportunity to raise the amendment in the alt motion, please?
Yes, that is correct. So if this was to fail, the foreshadowed alt motion would then be considered and amendments can be made, added or changed to that once it was moved and seconded.
So I'm going to foreshadow, if this fails, my amendment to the next one too. Thanks.
Noted, thank you. And I'm sure Councillor Perry would be the same. Yep. So with that, I'll now return to the mover and with her amendment, Councillor Pereira for right of reply.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I know this is the whole document that I'm talking about. It's a very heavy document. There's been a whole lot of work gone into this. I am pleased with the input from all the councillors. We worked very hard on this. I'm focusing just on my ward projects more because this was obviously close to me. There are still some projects that have been asked for, the community gardens, the toilets at the Banjo-Patterson Reserve stage, Coral Park wetlands development and Cairns Road master plan. These are things that I'll keep working on. This is the best I could deliver with this budget, so it's a step in the right direction, and I commend this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pereira. All right, with that note, we will now put the motion on the screen to a vote. If this is carried, this is the budget passed. If it is not, then we will, we've got the foreshadowed alternate motion. So all those in favour of the motion as put on the screen, please raise your hands. Keep them raised. Councillor Pereira, Councillor Eves, Councillor Walter, Councillor Rowe, Councillor Ross, Councillor Dowling. All those against, please raise your hands. Councillor Dazon, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Ambros, Councillor Cooman, Councillor Perry, Councillor Crowther. That is a split vote. So I believe there is a casting vote, and I will be voting against the motion on the screen. I'm not going to flip. So I declare that motion lost. And with that, we will now move to Councillor Crowther. Presumably you would like to introduce your alternate motion.
Okay, so as stated before, the alternate motion aims to utilise more of the waste reserves to support our community now when they need it most, returning these funds to our community now rather than it sitting in the bank, awaiting potential future increases. We could help our community now and help to reduce the financial burden of the large upcoming curbside reforms and freeze the waste charges for this year.
Thank you, Councillor Crowther, for introducing that motion, the alternate motion, which is on the screen. I believe everyone has a copy of that and it's on the screen. So as a mover, do we have a seconder for this motion? Councillor Dazon seconding. Do we have anyone speaking against? Councillor Walter, Councillor Ross, a number. So we will proceed to debate now. I will just note, are there any amendments? Has been foreshadowed. So Councillor Pereira, I believe you have an amendment. Presumably
Yes,
it's
please.
the
same amendment to be put back into here.
We will add that to the screen, and I will... Oh, sorry, I do. Thank you, Governance. Councillor Crowther, do you wish to accept the amendment from Councillor Pereira as on the screen? Excellent. Just one moment on Governance. Seconder does not need to accept it, but that is fine. So we've got the proposed amendment
I'd
on
like
the
to
screen.
Add my amendment into this.
We'll do it one by one, so we'll go through this, but it should be relatively quick. So we've got Councillor Pereira's amendment. It's been accepted by the mover, Councillor Crowther. Anyone speaking against this amendment, just the amendment which we've previously obviously discussed, none against. I'll put to the vote to add this amendment to the substantive motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Please keep them raised. That's carried unanimously to just add the amendment. So we now have the alternate motion with the amendment from Councillor Pereira in relation to a reallocation of assets as previously discussed. Councillor Perry, you have an amendment?
I'd like to add my amendment to this alternative motion too, please, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Perry. We'll have that brought up on the screen. Councillor Crowther, as the mover, are you willing to accept this second amendment? That's been accepted. Does anyone wish to speak against just the amendment, not the motion on the screen? No speakers against. All those in favour to add Councillor Perry's amendment, please raise your hands. Keep them raised. Okay, we'll keep them raised. And Councillor Dazon, Councillor Pereira, Councillor Eves, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Ambros, Councillor Cooman, Councillor Perry, Councillor Crowther, Councillor Ross, please put your hands down. All those against adding this amendment. Councillor Walter, I believe we've got a double vote here, do we? Did we have, I'll just double check that. I thought I'd... Councillor, well, we'll just have to double check that. For the fours? No?
I think just
Okay.
just do the against and fours again.
We'll just do the fours again because I believe someone put their hand up twice. So all those for adding this amendment, please raise your hands. It was Councillor Dowling, yes. Councillor Dazon, Councillor Pereira, Councillor Eves, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Ambros, Councillor Cooman, Councillor Perry, Councillor Crowther, Councillor Ross, please lower your hands. All those against. Councillor Dowling, Councillor Rowe, Councillor Walter. I declare the amendment carried, so the amendment will now form part of the substantive motion. So just for all those playing along at home, we've got the substantive alternate motion, including the waste charge freeze. We've added on Councillor Pereira's amendment in relation to her ward, a number of projects, reallocation, including some from my ward. Then we've got Councillor Perry's amendment that we've originally discussed around Wilson Botanic. So that is all now combined onto the one screen. We've got a motion. Any further amendments before we open to debate? No further amendments, councillors. We will now go to the mover to speak to the motion in full. Again, we can make additional contributions from last time. Councillor Crowther.
Through you, Mayor, this motion aims to return more of the community's funds back to our community to address the current actual waste increases that are happening in the upcoming year, not leaving them sitting in the bank waiting for potential future waste charge increases. To clarify for my fellow councillors and the community, these are just utilising more of the waste reserves. We still have many millions in other asset reserves and equipment reserves, so this is just utilising the waste reserves. We still have other savings left in the bank. If we hadn't been considering this amendment, we still would have left 1.7 million sitting in the bank, based on our last motion that we considered. As I said before, the state government has imposed unprecedented curbside reform costs on our community in this year, and we need to help our community to counteract these costs. As councillors, we were very disappointed that we couldn't revoke these curbside costs, but what we can do is to reduce the financial impact on our community in this upcoming year. So I urge my fellow councillors to support our community now, utilise more of the reserves, and deliver a freeze on this year's waste charges.
Thank you, Councillor Crowther. We have the seconder, Councillor Dazon. Do you wish to speak to the motion in full, which is the whole budget motion plus the 2 amendments?
Yes, please. Through you, Mayor, I would first like to address the freezing of waste charges until the end of the next financial year, as proposed by Councillor Crowther. As mentioned earlier, I've been very mindful of the increasing cost of living pressures facing our residents. I can completely understand this cost of living pressures myself, as it was part of my life growing up in a low socioeconomic household. As mentioned before, while we unfortunately cannot opt out of the mandated curbside reforms, this will work to reduce their financial impact on KC households. I understand from the advice Councillor Crowther received from council officers that there will be funds remaining in the waste reserve by the end of the financial year. The intention is to ease the cost of living pressures due to these curbside reforms. And as mentioned by Councillor Crowther, it is an opportunity to help our residents now when they need it the most. This amendment will utilise additional funds from the waste reserves to offset the increased costs associated with the reforms. In turn, this would deliver a freeze on waste charges, hopefully helping to ease some of the cost of living pressures for our residents. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Councillor Crowther for putting together this alternate motion. Second, for about 6 months, councillors have participated in detailed budget briefings and discussions, and throughout that process, I have consistently had my community front of mind and advocated strongly on their behalf. I am pleased to deliver a strong pipeline of capital projects for my residents, including the Bellata Road Family and Community Centre down in Clyde, an upgrade of Ramley Family and Community Centre in Clyde North, upgrades of Livingston FC in Cranbourne East, various works at Casey Fields, including a rectangular, can I get an extension please?
Granted.
Thank you. Including a rectangular stadium, and in Turin, a bridge upgrade, works at Ryder Park, Turin Reserve Oval Drainage Project, and the car park at the Turin Recreation Reserve. A very exciting year ahead indeed for the Turin ward. Third, I would like to thank all residents who made submissions to the budget. In particular, I acknowledge submissions from Retirement Village residents seeking a differential rate of 75% or alternative relief measures. I had the pleasure to meet with Retirement Village residents in Cranbourne East. One of them is here. Thank you for coming, and value those constructive discussions. I completely understand the arguments raised by residents. However, as discussed during the meeting, any reduced differential would shift the burden to all other ratepayers and would require broader community consultation, particularly given equity considerations across all households facing cost of living pressures. The submission also raised discount or waivers. I have held multiple meetings with council officers and sought advice on this, and I've been advised that to fund this, council would need to find offsetting savings. I am concerned at this stage about reducing funding for essential services or infrastructure to support such measures without proper planning, at least for this current budget before us. This may be something that we can consider for the future if supported by a majority of the councillors. I was informed that councillors will receive a briefing on these issues in July, and as I mentioned earlier, broader community consultation would be required if council is to consider a reduced differential for retirement villages. I will continue to stay informed, consider how we can better support our retirement village residents, and advocate for improvements to the state concession framework, which impacts not only retirement villages, but all pensioners across Casey. I would once again like to thank all residents who have provided submissions and feedback on the corporate suite of documents. Your input is very much appreciated. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Dazon. Would any councillors wish to speak against the motion? We can do for, but we always go to the opposite first after the mover and seconder. So we have Councillor Walter speaking against. You will get your turn, Councillor Perry.
Through you, Mayor, I would like to speak against this alternate motion, not for the fact that I don't want residents to save their $12, but the fiscal responsibility of only having 300,000 in that reserve means any fluctuation will wipe that out, and they will get charged even more next year. So I see it as robbing Peter to pay Paul. So yes, you will save the money this year, but next year it's gonna come back even more, I predict, because the fuel excise is ending this month. So the fuel is going to go up starting July 1st. So that is a cost that is real, and we will see it. So that is why I am against this. It's not against saving money for residents. It's about making sure we have the financial ability to smooth it over for more than just this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walter. Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? Councillor Perry.
Through you, Mayor. This is like the first time I've seen a big change like this to waste collection. Prior to this motion, council were already giving $3 million from our waste reserves to residents to offset the increased charges. We are upping this to $4.4 million with this alt motion. In giving 100% of the charge back to residents, we're sending a message to the state government. Ordinary Australians are always put on the line to cover additional charges. Governments, yes, need to find more money, but they need to stop looking down to us for cost shifting, like to councils and in turn residents. It's always middle Australia that pays for every increase in expenditure from, from big business or from like higher levels of government. I brought up the trending gas tax with my federal member recently, so hopefully we can look up the chain for money in the future. I'll gladly support Michelle to stop 100% of this cost shifting falling on our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perry. Any other speakers to the motion? Councillor Ambrose.
Through you, Mayor, even though the previous motion did lapse, I just want to highlight what I did explain previously. But I'd like to send my appreciation to Councillor Crowther for bringing forward this alternative motion. And I support it because it reflects a balanced, practical and community-focused approach to financial management and responsible management. Once again, I want to acknowledge the significant investments in the Coolora Ward outlined in the gender reports. These projects did not appear by accident. These were results of ongoing conversations with residents, community groups, clubs, state representatives, and all the hard work of the officers who helped shape and deliver these outcomes. We worked together to identify what was needed in Coolora, and it's pleasing to see these priorities reflected in this budget. And yes, Coolora hasn't been forgotten, and investment has been put back into those suburbs. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ambrose. Any other speakers? Councillor Pereira, then Councillor Reeves.
I do want to thank Councillor Crowther for doing this alt motion. I don't agree actually with that though. I do think $12 per house is not a lot of money, and we do need the reserves. I'm very, very wary of the increases with landfill charges, waste charges can go up, and the fact that, we might have a double hit next year. Who knows what it's going to be? And council's already given, $3 million to offset this. I feel a little bit, I'm just wondering, I know there are certain, groups out there that want to attack councillors for, raising rates and not doing this. I think I feel a little bit that we might be capitulating to that kind of pressure, which I don't agree is correct. I think it's good financial sort of management to have that reserve there. It's the way we strike budgets. We have reserves for different purposes. This is for that. Waste reserve is for foreseen waste charges. And I think, I don't agree. I don't think it's a great way to manage money. And now I find myself in an unusual situation because, of course, I want to support the other two parts of this and I want the budget to get through. So, thank you, Michelle. I don't support it. I do disagree with it. It is what it is. And, I hope things don't go kaput next year. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Pereira. Councillor Reeves.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to sort of highlight the sort of waste charges, that the proposed motion will only see a savings of $1 a month. And we've been told we can expect additional charges to come through. There will be diesel charges going up that we have to pay. And they will come out of the operational budgets. They'll be recouped the following budget from the waste charges, but they come out of the operational budgets, not the capital budgets, but day-to-day services we offer the struggling people. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reeves. Any other councillors which speak? Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm disappointed that this notice of motion goes against our council's Chief Financial Officer's advice.
Got a point of order, Councillor Ambrose?
Notice of motion, is that clarification?
It's an alternate motion.
Alternative.
Yep.
It is still a notice of motion, it's just an alternative notice of motion. Yeah, I'll start again. I'm disappointed that this alternate notice of motion goes against our council Chief Financial Officer's advice and seems to be formulated with chasing headlines in mind. Our CFO has clearly outlined the reasons for the Waste Management Reserve, how it has been used positively for residents in the past and its benefits. Do we want headlines or prudent financial management? Is this a way of making a statement about waste or a political statement about the curbside reforms? If we are looking at reducing the cost of waste, there are other ways. The simplest way of reducing the cost of waste to the community is to clean up the waste stream as much as we can, to recycle correctly, to stop buying throwaway products and support sustainable living. To me, this rings of tokenism. $12, $1 a month, can only be described as tokenistic. If this motion is aimed at saving $1.4 million, there are other ways of doing this through the budget, and we can go back and review all our line items, rather than leaving our waste management reserve vulnerable. It is our job to do it in the best interests for the residents of Casey, and part of that is making our waste management reserve, and part of making our waste management reserve vulnerable is not in the best interests of our residents.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillor Dowling.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. I'd just like to point out, again, I think I did previously, that it is just going to weaken council's position for our financial position, particularly liquidity going forward. So that's all I had to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Dowling. Any other speakers? I will speak to the motion again. This is great. Double take at the budget. So, look, firstly, I'll make a contribution again on the waste charge because there's been quite a few comments around this. I think two things that this does send a message. The message it sends is we'll not charge you residents something that hasn't been incurred yet. We're not going to accumulate funds in case something happens. What is very unique about the waste charge is that it's a direct cost. So if it is incurred, we can charge you. And we have lots of cash in the bank that we can absorb but then still recoup via the waste charge if there are expected costs. That is how it would occur, and it wouldn't come from other reserves. That's why the waste reserve is very unique in that sense. For context, I think the message it does send is, I think 2 years ago, I might have to correct me if I'm wrong, but there was about $7 million sitting in the waste reserve. So it is a vehicle that's been used to take money from residents. I think what we're sending here is a message that we will give it back when and where we can. So I'm supportive of this alternate motion. The other element I think I do want to speak to, because I didn't get to speak to it in my original contribution, is the overall budget. I think we have done a lot of work around sustainability, financial sustainability, fiscal sustainability. We're at a point in our financial position where we've almost paid off our debt, but given our size, there's an opportunity for some sustainable borrowings to actually invest back in infrastructure that is so needed across our established and new communities. People may not have seen, but in our 10-year financial plan, something I've focused a lot of attention on, we've actually planned out some sustainable debt borrowings to fund infrastructure for our community. And I think the commitment I want to make, it's about $135 million that we've projected over the forwards, is that every dollar of that will be with residents in mind, and we will go out to consultation and we will listen to our community about what they want us to spend our infrastructure spend on, and we want to get that right. Councillors are back, and we really want to work with the community to deliver projects that actually matter. I'll grant myself an extension just to talk a little bit about some of the local projects, which a lot of work has gone into by councillors, not just in my area, but across each council's ward. A lot of local projects that will matter. Things like the Hampton Park, the Arthur N. Hall, residents have been calling for upgrades to that for many years. We attend a lot of events there, and everyone comments about how run down it's been. So to see $1.3 million go to refurbish and renovate that is fantastic. Locally for me, a couple of other great projects. Delighted to work with Councillor Pereira for a new dog park in Hampton Park, as well as some upgrades at Banjo Patterson, which are in this amendment. And also the Hampton Park Football Netball Club, who are getting their new netball court as part of the master plan that I worked with the club on to redo this year, and will now get on delivering the next project for that. So some really good positive improvements across our community. So I will be supporting this motion, which reflects the budget, but importantly reflects the waste charge freeze, which I think is a good and fiscally responsible move for the council and for residents. On that, we'll go for a right of reply. I think we've got a question. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. You mentioned that we had reserves, and we had a lot of money in our reserves. And then we spent $6 million. Can I clarify where that $6 million was spent and how it was utilised, please?
It's probably a question for the CFO, potentially. It's about the size of the waste reserves in previous years.
And how that was spent, because the Mayor mentioned that we had a lot of money in there, so there was $6 million that was spent. Can you clarify how that was spent, please?
That's correct. We, through you, Mayor, sorry. We did have an accumulation of funds that year because we had a lower expenditure than what we thought. We were also anticipating the rise due to the new 4-bin system that the state government was introducing. We have drawn down $6 million out of that in order to provide relief to ratepayers, $3 million last year, and the proposed budget included $3 million for next year.
Sorry, follow-up question. So if we hadn't had that money sitting in our reserve, would we have been able to provide that relief to ratepayers?
Through you, Mayor, no, we would not. We anticipate if we did not draw down the $3 million for this upcoming budget, that would have cost ratepayers about $20. So they would have had an increase of $32. So we've managed to soften that and bring it down to $12. However, not knowing what's going to happen next year, I can't tell you what the rise would be next year.
Just for clarity, Ms Baker, so you were able to soften it because in previous years we'd charged residents and kept that money aside. Is that correct?
Through you, Mayor, the waste reserve is only used for waste collection. It's the balance between income and expenditure. So either we have collected more money than what the waste service cost us. So that could be due to growth in the community with additional residents, and it could also be through waste savings. Over the past few years, we did have some savings in the contracting costs. So we held that money responsibly in the reserve so that we could pass it back to ratepayers.
Thank you.
Sorry, just to further clarify Mayor's clarification. The reason we had our reserve was not because we were charging residents more than what they should have been charged.
Correct. It's a balancing act. It is. A lot of it is due to the additional residents coming into the municipality during the year. We do receive supplementaries from those developments. So we have had a lot of developments over the past few years, so that has resulted in more income for us, and we have put that money aside in order so that we could pass that savings on to residents in the following year.
Thank you. Councillor Crowther, right of reply.
I thank my many fellow councillors who have spoken in support tonight, and for Councillor Cooman for supporting me in working with the officers in the lead up to tonight's meeting. I can reassure Councillor Ross I am thinking about the community when I propose this alternate motion, and whilst you might play down $12, I think at the moment every dollar counts for our community, with rising costs in every direction, from food to fuel to insurance to mortgage and rent costs. I cannot leave $1.7 million of the community's money sitting in the bank in case of future potential waste charge increases when we can make a difference now for our community. I'd also like to reassure our community we still have many other millions of dollars in reserves in the bank, and the council is financially strong. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crowther. And that note, we'll put this to a vote. The motion as presented on the screen. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Councillor Dazon, Councillor Pereira, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Ambrose, Councillor Cooman, Councillor Perry, Councillor Crowther. Please lower your hands. All those against. Councillor Eves, Councillor Dowling, Councillor Ross, Councillor Rowe, Councillor Walter. I declare the motion carried. Thank you. Well done. That was a long one. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, officers also. All right. We will now move to item 5.2. Which is to present the quarterly report for January to March 2026. And to introduce this report, we have Marion Grigg, Manager of Strategy, Innovation and Transformation.
Thank you, Mayor. So this item presents the quarterly community report for the January to March 2026 period, and we're seeking Council's endorsement of the report prior to its publication on the Casey website. This is a key report for Council. It provides a transparent quarterly update to the community on our progress against the Council Plan, Annual Action Plan, Budget and Capital Works Program. Overall, performance is tracking well. Of the 63 actions planned in the Annual Action Plan, 5 have been completed, and the remaining 58 are progressing on track. Of the 40 strategic indicators, 26 are on track, 11 are off track, and 3 are not reportable this quarter. With respect to the Capital Works Program, $99 million has been spent year to date across 260 projects. Major projects that advanced during the quarter include the Bellato Road Family and Community Centre, Springleaf Recreation Reserve, the Doveton Pool redevelopment, and upgrades at the Old Cheese Factory, along with a range of local infrastructure works. Community engagement activities were active across the quarter, with more than 16,000 visits to Casey Conversations and over 1,100 submissions received. From a financial perspective, Council remains in a sound position, with a favourable year-to-date result driven largely by the timing of grants and lower than budgeted expenditure to date. Officers recommend Council endorse this report.
Thank you, Marion. Councillors, are there any questions for the officer? No questions. We've got a recommendation on the screen. Do we have a mover and seconder for that to be a motion? Councillor Ross, seconding Councillor Dazon. Any councillors speaking against? None against. Councillor Ross, floor is yours.
Thank you. It's always quite strange having to speak to a quarterly report a few months on after it's been completed. But I do want to thank the officers who gave it to us as early as they possibly could in the process. Overall, we're continuing to work on making this as transparent as an accountable document as possible. There are challenges with getting outcome measurements, but that is something we are continuing to work on. I wanted to speak to just a couple of things that had been completed and some of which the residents may have probably been utilising well and truly by now. For example, the Stratherd Playground was complete in this quarter and provides a fantastic uplift to the Stratherd Reserve. Latrobe Community Health Service was appointed as the youth counselling and mental health provider for the next 3 years. So that was a very welcome movement with the Youth Services Review. There was an increased number of opportunities for children and young people to participate in decision-making opportunities. And if you've ever watched how we gather feedback from young children at our special events, it's very creative and quite wonderful to see as we really try to capture their voices. One off-track strategic indicator was the percentage of people who feel council events are inclusive and welcoming. So even though it was 83% of respondents who thought the events were inclusive and welcoming, this did represent a decline from the previous quarter and gives us a focus of improvement. And on a personal note, it was pleasing to see a new community action leadership program come into place when expressions of interest opened. I was part of the last cohort and am proud to be part of the alumni of this community leadership program because it has helped me connect and produce some really wonderful community leaders. So I am very pleased to be able to support this motion, which I note is currently unopposed, which is awesome.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillor Dazon, did you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, through you, Mayor. Like Councillor Ross, I am overall pleased with the quarterly community report. As noted in the report, major projects continue to progress, including the Bellata Road Family and Community Centre in my ward, which will deliver important new facilities for local families. Council, I'm pleased to say, has also strengthened its advocacy for improved transport and connectivity, which are highly relevant for my ward, continuing engagement with the state government on public transport, road upgrades and walking and cycling infrastructure across KC. I'm also glad to see community engagement remaining strong, with over 16,000 visits to KC Conversations and more than 1,100 submissions this quarter, or the past quarter, on various issues. I thank all residents who participated and encourage ongoing engagement for future consultation or feedback requests. I would be very pleased to support this motion. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Dazon. Councillors, would anyone else like to speak to the motion? No further speakers. We'll put this to a vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Thank you, councillors. That's passed unanimously. Thank you, Marion. We will now move to item 5.3, which is our 2026 to 2029 Land Use Strategy Work Plan. And to introduce the report, we've got Michael Ford. Thank you, Mr. Ford.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, councillors. This report seeks council endorsement of a 3-year work plan for council's land use strategy strategic service. The work plan details the council-led projects that officers will deliver over the next 3 financial years, in addition to performing their statutory roles. The work plan includes a combination of carryover projects from the previous work plan endorsed by council in June 2025 and introduces 6 new projects that respond to councillors' feedback and emerging strategic planning and organisational priorities. The work plan provides a clear statement about council's strategic priorities for the service over the next 3 financial years and sets expectations for the community, the development sector and Victorian government agencies. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Councillors, are there any questions for the officer? No questions. We have a recommendation on the screen. Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Pereira moving. Councillor Ross seconding. Are there any councillors speaking against? None against. Councillor Pereira, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I introduce this notice of motion which seeks to establish a structured
Councillor
proactive...
Pereira, just it's not a notice of motion.
sorry.
Would you like to foreshadow? Was there an amendment that you wish to?
Yes, sorry.
Yes, it has been a long
I'm jumping
meeting.
the gun
but,
a bit excited about
I
this one.
believe you
Yes,
have an
please,
amendment,
but with the amendment.
which we can probably get up on the screen. We'll wait for that amendment to come on the screen. We're just waiting for that to come on the screen. It has been circulated to councillors, so we will wait for that to come up. Oh, there we go, we have that. I'll second that amendment. Did you want to speak, introduce it?
So I was going to ask if councillor... Yeah, you... that's all right,
Because you're the
go.
mover, you don't... Yeah, it's only the mover needs to ask.
Is councillor Ross
One
okay?
moment, I'll just check governance.
An amendment.
Because you've moved the motion, so you can move it with an amendment?
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
okay, in which case you'll need a seconder, councillor Ross to second.
You
Yeah,
happy with that? Yep. Okay.
you can introduce it, yep.
Thank you. Sorry, jumped the gun a little bit. I introduced this motion with the amendment, which seeks to establish a structured proactive framework for the Hampton Park Hill precinct. As part of the 2026 to 2029 Land Use Strategy Work Plan before us tonight, a project priority has been identified to progress strategic planning for Hampton Park Hill from July 1st. I am very pleased to share that I've been able to escalate this as a priority project for the coming year, and I want to sincerely thank the Mayor and Deputy Mayor for their support and leadership to elevate this matter in the Land Use Strategy Work Plan. The purpose of this amendment is to ensure the Council navigates this vital piece of work with the highest levels of governance, clarity and diligence. By establishing a dedicated project framework, we can carefully evaluate our current planning settings and responsibly explore options to shape a clear, long-term vision for this precinct. Hampton Park Hill is a uniquely complex precinct that has had various long-term visions over the years, including from the original Parklands vision. It currently represents an intersection of economic infrastructure, industrial legacy and long-established residential neighbourhoods. Because this housing is well established, our primary responsibility is to ensure that the surrounding strategic settings are fully aligned with contemporary urban planning standards. Over time, we've seen growing complexity in balancing the operational realities of the site with modern expectations regarding community amenity and environmental health. Managing an area with established residential borders under legacy controls can create friction, and it has become clear that a thorough review is now needed to determine if our current strategic direction reflects that up-to-date thinking. In addition to these local dynamics, we must acknowledge that our overarching planning environment is shifting. It is our responsibility as a council to ensure that legacy frameworks, that's including older development plans and associated agreements, remain appropriate, legally robust, and aligned with current state and local planning policies, and importantly, taking into consideration community expectations. This motion provides a structured, objective mechanism to manage these complexities safely and skillfully. First, it establishes formal project governance right from the outset, bringing together staff and council representatives to provide structured oversight and maintain complete transparency. Second, it directs officers to conduct a rigorous objective audit of the existing framework, specifically looking at the Hampton Park Hill Development Plan, Planning Scheme Amendment C294, Section 173 agreements and active planning permits and licences. This review will strictly determine if the current settings are still the most appropriate tool to guide the area forward. Crucially, this motion allows us to investigate options to reset the vision for the precinct in a way that respects our ongoing strategic and legal frameworks while maximising future community benefits. As we undertake this rigorous review, I intend to keep the community updated where possible during this process. This is a complex site, which is precisely why we need a formalised, careful approach. This motion ensures that our officers do their due diligence and report back to Council with clear evidence-based recommendations before the end of 2026. By supporting this motion, we are committing to a process that is balanced, legally sound and protective of both our strategic obligations and our community's future. I commend this motion to the Chamber. Thank you.
Thank you for introducing that motion, Councillor Pereira. So we now have a motion with the amendment. Councillor Ross, would you still like to be the seconder? Yep, so you'll be the seconder. So we've got a motion and the proposed amendment. So we need to put the amendment to a vote to have it added. Yes, yeah, yep, the amendment needs to be added to the land works plan. So is anyone wishing to speak against the amendment? This is we've done this in a different way to previously. So this is just voting on whether this amendment, as on the screen, is added to the motion that was put forward originally. So I'll just check.
I moved it with the amendment.
Yeah, it's not clear on the screen, but we do have to, there's the original motion and now it's with an amendment, so we have to vote on the addition of point 2, which Councillor Pereira has introduced and has been seconded. Is there anyone speaking against the addition of point 2, which is the amendment? None against? Put that to vote? Yes. Yeah. So we'll put the vote just for the amendment, and then we'll go to debate on the whole of the land use work plan. So all those in favour, please raise your hands. Thank you, councillors. That's carried unanimously to add the amendment. So we've now got the amendment which is shown on the screen. So that is now the substantive motion. We will now go to Councillor Pereira to introduce the motion in full, not just the amendment that you've added, but to speak to the land use work plan. Councillor Pereira.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, I gave the full description of Hampton Park because it's a huge issue for me and the people obviously in my area. The work plan sets about, after discussion with the councillors and officers, we've come up with this. This will be the work plan for the next 12 months. These are our priority projects that we've determined we will focus on. I agree with all these other things that are on this. It's all listed in the agenda. Yep. That's really all I have to say. It's all clearly listed in there. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Pereira. So we'll open now to speakers. We'll go to Councillor Ross. But just a reminder, councillors, we're not just speaking about the amendment. There's that one amendment, but this is the whole land use plan, strategy plan. There's a lot in there that you can contribute to, should you wish. Councillor Ross to speak to the motion in full.
So this land use strategy work plan is a 3-year plan. And planning policy needs regular review, and these reviews keep policy current, effective and focused on achieving the outcomes we want. Development contribution plans make sure growth helps fund the infrastructure it needs. I can speak here to the Fountain Gate Narre Warren CBD Development Contribution Plan, which is going to occur next year. And this plan helps fund 8 road and intersection projects in the centre, but it is now nearly 20 years old. So what the review will do is test whether the plan is still working. A big hint, it's 20 years old, so it needs updating, by looking at development activity, levies collected and delivery of funded projects. So what it will do, it will be updated so that any future developers will pay a current and a more appropriate amount of money toward require infrastructure upgrades, as opposed to what was originally set down 20 years ago. So one of the exciting things about this review is it also lays the groundwork for the future review of the Fountain Gate Narre Warren CBD structure plan, which I'm pleased to advise is scheduled to begin in 27-28 in our work plans. So this will put down some, really strong foundations for that work. So thank you, and yes, I do support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Any other speakers to the motion? No speakers? Yep, Councillor Perry.
want to point out to residents of Greville Ward that there's a township strategy for Narre Warren North commencing in 27-28 as part of this motion. So, yeah, I just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you.
To keep your eye on this space.
Councillor Perry. Any further speakers? Councillor Ambrose.
I'd just like to thank Councillor Perry for highlighting Narre Warren North. Yes, we're looking forward to that one. It's a long time coming.
Thank you, Councillor Ambrose. I will, noting there's no other speakers, I'll make a contribution. This is actually a very important document, and a lot of residents may not know, but this is the work plan that, as your representatives, we give direction to council and officers to go and do work that then rolls out across our community, how we deal with different land. So there's a lot of land in Casey, and this is our priorities, and we've really helped shape this. There's two I really want to speak to. Firstly, big thank you to Councillor Pereira for her work, and to work with you, Councillor Pereira, on finding a way forward for what has been a massive issue for our community. We both represent Hampton Park, and coming in as an elected councillor for there, I knew the importance of Hampton Park Hill, the significance, the sensitivities. We've been through a lot. It's been great to work with residents, and I think the key message is the work's not done, but we need to do it the right way, and that's through the right strategy and the right way forward to get the best outcome. I'm committed to that, and I think this is absolutely the best way to do it. Thank you to the officers, particularly Michael Ford and Tanya Asper, for your support in coming up with this, and well done to Councillor Pereira. The other one I really want to focus on, when I was elected, absolutely, I talked about the importance of looking after our established communities, the areas that I represent, and making sure that we're getting investment in our communities, particularly money that's raised out of our communities. And one of the items that you might not even see, but it's the review of the Public Open Space Contributions Reserve, which is money that comes out of subdivisions. When open space is lost, in lieu of that, money goes into a reserve. Now, historically, and this was a bugbear of mine coming into council, is a lot of that money was spent purchasing land further out in growth areas, often nowhere near the areas in which it was taken from, or it was accrued from. And that didn't match up for me. So we're going to do a review on this. It'll be a big piece of work, but it's about giving better clarity and more focus on where those funds go. And that's been a big push for mine, is greater transparency and a strategy that reflects the needs of our established communities. So looking forward to that work. It's been brought forward to this financial year. So really excited about that, as well as a lot of the other work for the planning nerds out there. This is where real action is done. So I'll be supporting this, and I'm out of time. So that is it for my contribution. Any further contributions? Because we do have other speakers if we wish. No further speakers. I'll put that to a vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Thank you, councillors. That's passed unanimously. Thank you, Michael. And we'll now move to item 5.4, which is recommendation to adopt the Hampton Park Central Development Plan, June 2026. And we have Michael Ford to introduce this report also.
Thank you, Mayor. This report seeks council adoption of the Hampton Park Central Development Plan dated June 2026. At the March 2026 council meeting, council endorsed the draft plan for public exhibition. The draft plan was publicly exhibited from the 31st of March to the 28th of April this year. During the public exhibition of the draft plan, council received 86 online survey responses, 5 written submissions, 14 business site visit responses, and approximately 65 visitors attended the 2 community engagement pop-up sessions held. Community engagement demonstrated strong support for the vision and objectives and key changes proposed in the exhibited draft plan, with 81% of respondents supporting the vision and over 65% supporting most objectives. In response to the submissions received, minor amendments were made to the exhibited draft plan to strengthen guidance on the design of key pedestrian connections, improve tree canopy coverage and landscaping quality, and land use mix. In conclusion, officers recommend that council adopt the Hampton Park Central Development Plan dated June 2026 which responds to market drivers to enable market-led investment and development to revitalise the Hampton Park Centre. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Councillors, any questions for the officer? No questions. We've got a recommendation on the screen. Do we have a mover? Councillor Pereira. And I will second this motion and request an amendment that I would like to make, potentially with the approval of the mover, Councillor Pereira. I'll ask for that amendment to be put on the screen, and then I will introduce it. I'm happy to speak to it while we wait for the goodness of time. There's two additional points that I've asked to add. Councillor Pereira and I attended the consultation, spoke to lots of residents, and look, it wasn't news to us, the concerns that residents have, because we came in as elected councillors knowing the challenges in Hampton Park. But I think two of the real key takeouts beyond the development plan, but important to the community, is the unsightly property, the dumped rubbish that is occurring on this private land, as well as accessibility challenges, particularly for people with wheelchair or access needs. So this is just an amendment to include noting that and then calling on the landowners to do more in both those areas. So that's my amendment. Councillor Pereira, are you willing to accept that amendment?
Absolutely. Thank you for the additions.
Thank you, Councillor Pereira. Anyone speaking against the amendment? None against. So this is just a vote now for the amendment itself to add it to the substantive motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Thank you, councillors. Noting Councillor Ross's return, that's all present and all in favour of adding that. Thank you, councillors. That's carried unanimously. So we now add that amendment with the two blue points added to the motion on the screen. And I will now, or is anyone speaking against this motion? None against. Councillor Pereira, would you like to introduce? Speak to the motion, sorry.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm pleased to move this adoption of the Hampton Park Central Development Plan. This plan has been a long time coming, and for many in our community it represents something very simple: hope. It's easy in local government to become pessimistic or even a little despondent about how difficult it can be to deliver meaningful change. But tonight we have an opportunity to take another step forward for Hampton Park and demonstrate the council remains committed to investing in one of our most important activity centres. I want to thank the residents, traders and community members who have taken the time to provide feedback throughout this process. Their input has helped shape the final document before us. This is the latest iteration of the development plan, and while it is not the final destination, well, hopefully it might be, but I'm not sure, it is an important milestone. Hopefully it can help facilitate the revitalisation and redevelopment that Hampton Park Central has needed for many years. This project has always been a challenge. Funding is never easy to secure, and significant upgrades require partnership and investment from multiple parties. We are fortunate to be getting $300,000 towards this. That's $250,000 from the state government and $50,000 contribution from council. This is a start of some works around this area. It'll help to improve the look of it a little bit. So that funding will not transform the entire precinct overnight, but it will help deliver a range of practical improvements that residents will notice and appreciate. These works include improvements to accessibility, landscaping, public realm enhancements and upgrades that make the centre more welcoming, functional and attractive for the people who use it every day. But we also need the landowners, businesses and other stakeholders to come to the party as well. Genuine revitalisation only occurs when all partners work together towards a shared vision. The Hampton Park community has supported these businesses, and there are many multicultural businesses in this ward, hence why we've received this funding from the state government. Supported this business for many years through their loyal patronage. In return, the community deserves investment in the centre that serves them. These businesses also benefit from a safer, more attractive and more pleasant shopping environment. Better public spaces encourage more people to visit, stay longer, support local traders and strengthen the local economy. This is about creating a centre that residents are proud of, a place that is welcoming, accessible and vibrant for people of all ages and abilities. Many Hampton Park residents currently choose to shop in other centres such as Berwick. Somebody told me they go there because there are flowers in Berwick. We need flowers too. Narre Warren or elsewhere. By improving Hampton Park Central shops, we can encourage more people to spend their time and money locally, supporting local jobs and local businesses. So tonight's decision is another step forward. I thank the officers for the work that they put into this plan. It is a very tricky plan. We've had a few changes over the years. I think this is probably as good as we can get it to be, and the community are happy with it, are broadly happy with it as well. So for all these reasons, I am pleased to support this development plan, and I look forward to seeing the positive outcomes it can deliver for the Hampton Park. And I look forward to the landowners also responding in kind. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pereira. As seconder, I will speak in support of this motion. This is a culmination of 18 months of work, really. This is Councillor Pereira and I, we share the boundary of this space, this shopping centre, which is the centre of our community, and we know the challenges there. And the first thing we did when we came to council is to look at ways we can try and improve this. This development plan is a review and a refresh of what is a plan that was 7 or 8 years old, and we hadn't seen any action. So the substantive changes in this are actually going to encourage investment, again, when the landowners are willing and able, but it takes away some barriers and makes it a lot more feasible and potentially more enticing. But it ultimately does come down to landowners willing to spend, which we hope they do, and we are happy to help facilitate that. Our officers are working with them in every way we can. So this is it's a good plan, but in addition, I think there is more that we can do. We've secured the funding from the state government, which is going to see improvements to the public access spaces. So residents will see improvements in coming months. We've been out on foot there looking at the improvements we can make, Councillor Pereira and I, and we're really thankful for having this funding to be able to get some work done. Because residents, it's private land, but residents see this as their community, as their centre. And that's why we're trying to find ways and any way we can. And this funding program, thanks to the officers for identifying and securing the maximum amount, that will lead to some changes. But in addition, we do need the landowners, if they're not investing, to commit to making it a well-presented place that doesn't cost a lot of money. And the motion here is calling on them to do their bit. A couple of these landowners aren't from the area, and we need to bring it to their attention that they have a responsibility and an obligation to our community, because this is a very publicly used space. So we will continue to call for that, and we'll do everything we can in our power to improve the amenity of this activity centre. So I'm supportive of this, and thank the officers for all their work. Any further speakers? No further speakers. We'll put this to a vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Thank you, councillors. That's passed unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Ford. And we will now move to our next item, which is 5.5, which is proposed acquisition of part of 191, 195 Belgrave Hallam Road, Narre Warren North. And we have again Michael Ford, Manager of Growth and Investment. Mr. Ford.
Thank you, Mayor. This report seeks a council resolution to commence community engagement for a proposed acquisition of land at 191 to 195 Belgrave Hallam Road at Narre Warren North. The Victorian Government and Council have long identified a need for a shared user trail between Frog Hollow Reserve and Listerfield Park along Umemmering Creek. For more than 20 years, officers have progressively acquired land along the creek corridor in pursuit of this outcome. Acquisition of the subject land would complete land acquisitions for the shared use trail project and provide certainty for future delivery. The acquisition will contribute to the delivery of multiple council plan strategic priorities focused on improving sport and active community participation, connectivity and biodiversity, natural resource and water management for the benefit of current and future generations. This report is the first step of a two-step process for the proposed acquisition of the land. If the recommendation is adopted, a further report on the outcome of community engagement and recommended next steps on the proposed acquisition of land will be considered by council at a future meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Councillors, do we have any questions for the officer in relation to this report? no questions. We've got a recommendation on the screen. Do we have a mover and seconder, councillors? Councillor Ambrose moving, seconding. Councillor Perry. Any councillors speaking against the motion? None against. Councillor Ambrose, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, as a ward councillor, I want to speak briefly about this item and what it relates to in the proposed acquisition of the part of 191 to 195 Belgrave Hallam Road in Narre Warren North. This land represents the missing piece in delivering the long-planned Remembering Creek to Listerfield Lake shared user trail. For more than 2 decades, Council has progressively secured land along the creek corridor, and this is the final section that allows us to complete the continuous walking and cycling link from Doveton through to Listerfield Park. Importantly, this report does not make a final decision. What we are considering is whether to commence the community consultation under Section 112 of the Local Government Act 2020. That means the community now has the opportunity to tell us where this acquisition should proceed in 2026. I strongly encourage residents to share their feedback through the proper channels. Your voice generally matters in shaping the future of this corridor. I want to acknowledge the long-term owners of the site who have approached Council this time in relation to the recent land acquisition. They have expressed willingness to collaborate with Council and welcome the opportunity to maintain respectful, constructive engagement through the process. In the recent building a Better Casey listening post to Frog Hollow, many residents expressed how important a safe, continuous walking, running path is for local families, cyclists and recreational users. This acquisition would provide the missing link if the community chooses to support it. Tonight, it's about starting the conversation, and I encourage everyone in Calora or in the City of Casey to participate and to be heard and help guide the future of this important open space connection. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ambrose. Councillor Perry, would you like to speak to the motion?
Really briefly, through you, Mayor, I support the acquisition. It would connect Frog Hollow in Endeavour Hills with Listerfield Lake via Narre Warren North. I'm just hoping it all works out. As a local, I would just say that it is hard to get around that part of Narre North without a car. So anything that connects it is great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perry. Any other speakers? Councillor Pereira.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to speak briefly too. I was the chair of the Conservation Advisory Committee many, many moons ago, and this particular stretch of land often came up. It was strategically such an important parcel of land for biodiversity. So the sustainability and climate resilience aspects is what I'm looking at. It is an important corridor, and it's also a natural resource and water management. It fills the water management strategic priorities of the council plan. So it's exciting to see, because this has been a long time that the council has been trying to acquire this. Now the opportunity has come up. It's very exciting. So any of my old committee members that might be watching, it's finally happening, and yeah, I hope this does progress as we hope it might. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? No? I'll be very brief. I'm supportive of the acquisition. It's great that the landowner has approached council on this. I know it's been something that's been in the works as a planning idea because it's such a good connection. This will go all the way from Doveton through to Listerfield Lake, which is a beautiful walking path and destination. We've got a lot of mountain bike riders. We've got a lot of people who like to get active through green space. So I support the proposed acquisition. No further speakers. Put this to a vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Thank you, councillors. That's passed unanimously. Thank you, Michael. We will now move on to our next item, which is 5.6, which is affordable housing policy. And to introduce this report, we've got Director of Community Life, Callum Paddy. Callum.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, councillors. Tonight I'm pleased to introduce the affordable housing policy. This is an important step forward in how we respond to one of the most pressing challenges facing our community. In Casey, the data is clear. Since 2020, housing prices have increased by 26% for houses and 32% for units, while rents have increased by up to 40%. For low-income households, only 4.1% of homes sold are affordable, and for very low-income households, this drops to 0.5%. Rental affordability has also declined sharply, with affordable rentals dropping from 90% in 2020 to 32% in 2025. We currently have a shortfall of more than 7,400 households needing affordable housing in Casey, including over 2,000 families with children. The policy provides a clear and consistent direction for council's role. It's grounded in strong local data and shaped through community consultation and engagement with community housing providers, industry partners and key stakeholders, ensuring it reflects both the lived experience of housing stress in Casey and the priorities of our community. It focuses on three key things. It establishes council's position that affordable housing is a priority for Casey. It guides our decision-making, so we actively look for opportunities to improve affordable housing outcomes through planning and land use. It supports advocacy and partnerships by positioning councils to lead, influence and work with sector and state government to deliver better, more coordinated affordable housing outcomes. This policy gives us practical framework to take a more proactive and consistent approach while working within the broader planning system. Adopting this policy positions Casey to respond to the challenges with clarity, consistency and leadership.
Thank you, Callum. Councillors, do we have any questions for the officer? No questions. Councillors, do we have a mover and a seconder? Of Councillor Perry moving and seconding Councillor Pereira. Is anyone speaking against the motion? Councillor Dowling against the motion? No? No. All right, we will...
Sorry, Mr Mayor, I'd like to second that with an amendment, please.
Yeah,
Is that okay?
we can get the amendment on the screen. That would be good. The mover, Councillor Perry, are you aware of the amendment? Are you supportive of the amendment?
I am aware of the amendment. It's on the screen now, actually.
There we go. Thank you, officers. So we have the amendment on the screen.
I'm happy to move this item with Councillor Pereira's amendment.
Excellent. So we've got agreement on that. Is there anyone against the amendment? Councillor Ross against. That is, we'll now open this to debate then. So to introduce the amendment, to introduce the amendment because we've had acceptance from the mover, Councillor Pereira to introduce the amendment, and then we will go to Councillor Ross and open debate.
Thank you. This policy is a really good policy. I just wanted to put some sort of, make it a bit more robust. So I have been working with the officers to get some more reporting mechanisms built in. So we've got proper dates in there, more details about how we're going to actually address the reporting back. And yeah, that's basically it. So just add some more, make it more robust, rather than just plain adopting the policy. I'm fearful that, you know, we've had policies in the past, and while it's stated in the policy that work will be done, unless you have proper framework around it, it's a bit wishy-washy. So as a council, I want to make sure that we are progressing, we have proper reporting back, and we see progress. And at the end of all this, we actually see numbers of affordable housing, not just a tokenistic sort of couple of things. I want to see the growth. I want to see us reaching our targets. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Pereira. So just a reminder for councillors, we are only debating the amendment, which is the blue element on the screen, to bring in and add to the motion, which is to endorse the policy as presented. So Councillor Ross, in relation to the amendment, you'd like to speak against?
I just have a couple of minor points to do with the amendment. One, I feel the policy itself is quite robust. I feel it has very strong guidelines and accountability built in. I'm a little concerned in terms of, yes, we want housing numbers, but a lot of the policy is based on partnerships, which can take, you know, a while to develop. It's based on state advocacy to provide some clear ground to encourage partnerships. There's a lot of work that needs to be done prior to any actual homes being built. And I'm just a little bit concerned we're raising expectations of residents in the short term above what we'll be able to provide in the short term. So that's my concern with this amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Would anyone else like to speak to the amendment? Because we will vote on this amendment, so it's an opportunity to speak to whether you want this included in the motion. Councillor Perry.
Yeah, the amendment is extremely important for this policy, for this item. Without the amendment, there's a risk the policy can sit on a shelf gathering dust and not be enacted. It's actually the most important part and ensures it comes back to council, and it ensures that officers are accountable for the policy, and it actually turns into an action plan. It also adds in emergency and crisis accommodation as appropriate.
Thank you, councillor Perry. Any other speakers on the amendment? I'll write a reply, because yeah.
Just wanted to say the amendment actually is a result of councillor Perry and myself working on that together with the officers.
Noted that. Any further speakers? I'll make a contribution because I'm supportive of the amendment. I think it adds weight to what is a good policy, which I'm supportive of. The key part for me and the key part about this policy is council being able to consider proposals from partners. That's, and I'll speak to that in the motion, but what this does is set out a much clearer pathway and deliverables and updates and identifying opportunities that council will be responsible for deciding, but actually having a willingness to engage with partners. So I'm supportive of the amendment. Any further speakers in relation to the amendment? None. Put this to a vote. All those in favour of the amendment, please raise your hands. Keep them raised. Thanks. Councillor Dazon, Councillor Pereira, Councillor Eves, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Ambrose, Councillor Cooman, Councillor Perry, Councillor Walter, Councillor Crowther, Councillor Rowe and Councillor Dowling. Please put your hands down. All those against? Councillor Ross, I declare that amendment carried. So we now have the amendment in addition to point 1. So we've got a substantive motion that we can put now to debate. Mover, Councillor Perry, would you like to speak to the motion as a whole, not just the amended
Yes,
moment?
please.
Yep.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. If you look at this policy, it's a great piece of work, and if implemented properly, can be impactful for the community. This affordable housing policy is just the first step, though. What happens next is much more important. What we actually will be doing about affordable housing, the implementation plan, and the actions we will take. This, as always, as I always say, sorry, I know I've gone on about this last few meetings, but it needs to be a public document and get input from the public. So residents and community service organisations, so that as a council we can make progress on affordable housing transparently. Finally, as you can see, within point 2, this alternative motion seeks to come back to council with what options it has in increasing emergency accommodation in Casey. Our homeless need affordable housing. They also desperately need emergency accommodation first. I'm sure other councillors would like to speak to this item, and I know Councillor Pereira has been a long-term advocate in this space, so I'd rather other people talk on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perry. Any speakers against? None against. Any other speakers to the motion as presented on the screen? Oh, sorry, you're the seconder. Sorry, it is. I do apologise. Councillor Pereira, as the seconder, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, yes, I would. Can I just firstly bring up that I did have a notice of motion, as councillors remember from last December. I would like that minuted, please, just for consistency, to see the flow of the work. Something I really wanted to highlight is a great policy. Thank you so much for putting the effort in. It's fantastic. It's so wide encompassing. What I really want to focus on is the use of council-owned land, the consideration of council-owned land and for partnership opportunities, because this is something, when I tried years ago, I was on the Affordable Housing Task Force too, and spent 4 years on that on council. We didn't really achieve anything, to be very honest. So I'm very aware of having policies that don't have teeth. Thank you, Director Catherine Surlis, because we had our discussions about the use of council land. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, because this is groundbreaking. This is what really sets this policy apart and takes it to the next level. I'm hopeful that this will create so many more opportunities that we've been stifled from actually investigating in the past. So thank you very much. And the reporting and monitoring and accountability, all of this is about actually getting this thing progressed so that we have some real results, so that we explore all avenues and we try everything. We're creative in how we get this done, because the fact of the matter is people need housing and not everyone can afford to just go into the open market. People can find themselves being, lose a job and being evicted, family violence victims. all sorts of things. Yeah, it can happen to anyone. You can find yourself homeless at any time. That's also incorporated in this policy, which I think is wonderful. But the fact of the matter, we're going to have increasing numbers of people that need homes. They've got to live somewhere. We've got to help alleviate this problem. And it's not even going to be acceptable to not have these houses. We have to do it. We can't have people living on the street and in parks. So it's very important. I think probably one of the most important policies that this council will see. And I'm very excited to actually have this here tonight. And I really look forward to how we can make this happen. Thank you.
On mute. Thank you, Councillor Pereira. Any other councillors wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Dazon, then Councillor Ambrose.
Through you, Mayor, I would firstly like to thank Councillor Pereira for bringing in the original notice of motion relating to affordable housing last year, which has led to the development of this policy. As mentioned by Councillor Perry, she has been a long-term advocate for this, which I thank you for, Councillor Pereira. Thank you for that. Access to safe, secure and affordable housing is fundamental to the health, well-being and stability of our community. We are seeing increasing pressure across Casey, with many residents experiencing housing stress, limited rental availability, rising costs that are outspacing incomes. This is not just a housing issue. It has flow-on impacts to community well-being, access to employment, family stability, demand for council and community services. Importantly, many of the people affected are key workers, young people, older residents and families who are vital to the functioning and fabric of our community. This policy provides council with a clear, consistent and transparent position on affordable housing. It strengthens council's ability to advocate the state and federal governments, influence outcomes through the planning system, partner with the housing sector and other stakeholders. It moves council from ad hoc responses to a more coordinated and strategic approach. It establishes the foundations for measurable action, stronger partnerships, and better long-term outcomes for the Casey community. For those reasons, I will be supporting this motion tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dazon. Councillor Ambrose.
Through you, Mayor, thank you to Councillor Pereira and also Councillor Perry for bringing these two amendments and also the notice, the actual motion in front of us. I actually recall last year going to an event with Councillor Pereira and the rest of the councillors with Walk in Her Shoes, and we heard some really hard stories and it really did move me, and we continue to see people suffering and needing support. So as a council, we have a responsibility, and I'm looking at the potential action to come from this policy. Just even today, I ended up attending the Casey North Community Information Support Service and delivering just jackets because there's people that are in desperate times with desperate needs. So I'm full support of this, and I'm looking forward to how we can help the community because it's really vital and it's a responsibility that we took an oath for back in 2024 to help our constituents as best as we can.
Thank you, Councillor Ambrose. Any further speakers? Councillor Ross.
So in July last year, I attended the MAV Leading Communities Through Housing Change, where we very much looked at the problem of housing in our community. I went to that in Dandenong. I believe I was the only councillor who attended that particular event. As a councillor group with the health and wellbeing of the community a central part of our remit, we don't ignore wicked problems. This is an example of us facing a wicked problem front on. This document itself provides transparency on our council positioning for community and potential partnership. It makes clear advocacy asks, including to the state government, for an exemption or remission from windfall gains tax. I welcome the definitions provided in this report, as clarity of terminology is crucial in advancing our understanding and approaches to this wicked problem. It's important to note that this is not a homelessness policy. It's not its intention. Homelessness is a very significant problem in our community, and it will be looked at in other documents as well. But our biggest problems in Casey are identified as being transitional housing for domestic family violence, including young adults who can't live at home, insufficient housing stock for one of two people, and social housing. In addressing this wicked problem, we do need partnerships, we need collaboration, not just with all levels of government, but with private sector, superannuation, private individuals, and that takes into account things as dual occupancy and what we used to call granny flats, and my great-granny did live in a granny flat. So, the thing to remember is more partnerships fail than succeed. We have examples across Victoria. For example, Whittlesea had the Epping Riverlea Haven Home Safe Housing Project. Just, can I have a brief extension, please, Mayor?
Granted.
St Andrew's Uniting Church donated excess land for 73 architecturally designed units. So that's an example of a partnership with a not-for-profit partner. And Winchelsea Council sold land for $1 with conditions. So there are lots of different options to us, lots of innovations open to us. And this document helps set that up. It helps set out clear guidelines to the wider community that we are serious about this problem. We welcome innovation and we welcome it with open arms. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Any other speakers? I'll make a brief contribution. I'm really excited about this one because this is another example of a policy that's been councillor-led since we've been elected. It took a long time, and I was pleased to work with Councillor Pereira to get the notice of motion on the agenda, which has led to some really significant work by councillors and officers. I'd like to thank officers for that. This did come off the back. It was an issue that we were all passionate about, but it was that one event that I think touched us all at Bunjil Place here, and we thought we can do more. And this policy, I think, does set up the framework and strategy for that. We are a very large council. We're the biggest in Victoria, but we've got a lot of capacity to do good and to be innovative. And I think this gives some guardrails, but a clear pathway of how we can do that in different parts of our community, whether it be in new growth areas and ways that we can incorporate that, and officers can do that work, but also to be able to entertain ideas of partnership and proposals in different forms of housing to use. And one of the things I'm passionate about, and which is why I'm supportive of the amendment, particularly around identifying land, is we have a lot of land, and this is not about giving land away, it's a lot of land that's just not used and hasn't been used for so many years. So the opportunity to utilise that in the short term and make the most of it and give to good without giving up the land, I think is a great opportunity. The project's got to be right, but this gives us the opportunity and pathway to consider those proposals. So supportive of the policy, and would like to thank the councillors for pushing this initiative. Any further speakers? We'll put this to a vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Thank you, councillors. That's passed unanimously. Thank you, Michael. No, thank you, Callum. Western track here. We've got 2 items to go, so we may need a motion to extend, but we'll see how this is going with 22 minutes left. I'll monitor that, but we've now got our second last report, which is 5.7. It's a contract CT 001050 Bells Road Recreational Reserve, and to introduce this report, we've got Asia Motazedian, Manager, City Design and Construction.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, councillors. So this item relates to the proposed award of contract CT 1050 for the delivery of Bells Road Recreation Reserve civil works in Clyde North. The project will deliver a major multi-use sporting precinct, including 2 ovals supporting cricket, AFL and soccer, and multi-purpose courts supporting futsal, netball and basketball, and associated supporting infrastructure, such as access roads, car parking, lighting and services. A public tender process was undertaken with submissions assessed by an evaluation panel and overseen by an independent probity advisor to ensure a fair, transparent and defensible outcome. The recommended tender has been assessed as offering best value for council, and the project is funded within the current draft budget. This project is an important investment in community infrastructure that supports active participation, responds to growth and aligns with council's livable city and strong communities objectives. Thank you.
Thank you, Asiya. Councillors, are there any questions for the officer in relation to this report? Councillor Ambros.
Through you, Mayor, the report identifies a site as a multi-use sporting precinct intended to support soccer. Can officers clarify how soccer will be accommodated in practice, including what types of pitches will be available to support scheduling, training, competition use, to be managed, the support of ongoing participation and club development?
It's a question for officers.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the question. Yes, the site is able to accommodate by the overlay of 2 senior rectangular pitches, and there is the ability to place a further 2 junior size pitches within the site. So it could accommodate up to 4 soccer pitches, 2 senior, 2 junior.
Thank you.
Any further questions, councillors? Thank you. No further questions. We've got a recommendation on the screen in relation to this contract. Councillors, do we have a mover and seconder for the contract? Councillor Walter moving, seconding Councillor Dazon. Any councillors speaking against? Councillor Ambros. We will now go to the mover, Councillor Walter, to speak to the motion.
Through you, Mayor, thank you. As the ward councillor where this facility will be built, I'm pleased to support the recommendation to award contract CT 001050 for the Bells Road Recreational Reserve Civil Works, which represents an important investment in delivering high-quality community infrastructure aligned with our council plan priorities around strong communities and a livable city. This project will deliver a multi-use sporting precinct supporting cricket, soccer, AFL, and netball and basketball, and if I may, possibly field hockey and lacrosse. Just throwing it in there. Along with essential supporting infrastructure such as lighting, drainage, access roads, and car parking, enabling safe, accessible, and long-term use for both organized sport and community recreation. The procurement process has been robust and transparent, with 12 tenders received and rigorously assessed by a qualified evaluation panel under independent probity oversight, ensuring fairness and accountability throughout. The recommended tenderer has been identified as offering the best value for money, with demonstrated experience and capability to successfully deliver a project of this scale, and the project is appropriately budgeted within Council's 2026-27 financial planning. I commend the officers for their thorough work and strongly support the endorsement of this contract to deliver these much-needed community facilities.
Thank you, Councillor Walter. Councillor Dazon, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, please, through you, Mayor. This is a fantastic upcoming project for my neighbouring ward in Councillor Walter's area, and I'm sure many of my residents will also make use of this fantastic facility once it is delivered. As my area of legal expertise involves building and construction law, I have assisted some of my clients with tender processes and have exposure in this area. I'd like to quickly note that I have read the confidential attachments and reviewed the tender evaluation, and I am comfortable with the process that was undertaken. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Dazon. Councillor Ambros, do you wish to speak?
Through you, Mayor, yes, I would. I'd like to speak in regards to planning and governance perspective, because this is a significant investment of ratepayers' money, and our responsibility is to ensure that every major capital project delivers long-term value for the community. This is a significant investment of ratepayers' money. When we approve civil works of this scale, we are effectively locking in long-term layout and capacity of this reserve. This also reflects our responsibility to ensure the responsible and sustainability of use of ratepayers' funds go through sound long-term decision-making. That's why back in 2025, I raised concerns for the 2025 to 2026 budget discussions, and I raised questions about whether this site could truly be future-proofed. When we approve civil works of this scale, We're also approving the contract and locking in the physical layout of the site for decades. The earthworks, drainage, lighting, pavilion orientations become permanent. This means decisions we make today must be robust, future-focused and grounded in evidence. My focus is that the size and configuration of the site might not support long-term needs for the supports that are actually going to use it. We know that rectangle sports are experiencing rapid growth in Casey. Clubs are expanding, participation is rising and demand to field space is outpacing supply. On this side of size, delivering 2 full-size senior rectangular fields raises real concerns about whether the future proofing of this reserve. Comparable growth areas include, like Ramley, already provide 3 rectangle fields because this is what's required for sport growth and scheduling capacity and community participation. Through you, Mayor, I'd like to flag an extension.
Extension granted.
If a club is based here, 2 fields might not be enough to sustain long-term development. Their team culture, their community ties. We risk building a facility that is already undersized from day one. The officer's report identifies reserves of the multi-use sporting precinct. The Bells Road open space has been planned for multi-use sporting precincts designed to accommodate cricket, soccer and netball, along with the supporting infrastructure regarded to ensure safe operations, accessibility, functionality and long-term asset performance. I do acknowledge I did advocate to inclusion of wings on this design, and that has been achieved. However, the alone does not address the border question and overall site capacity and long-term fit. However, if it's serious about delivering it on 10, the capacity of the site must realistically match the space requirements and growth trends of the sport. A true multi-use precinct should maximise flexibility, support multi-configurations and avoid costly redesigns later. That requires ensuring that the site layout can generally accommodate these sports using the physical constraints of the land. This is why responsible planning matters. Once civil works begin, we cannot easily unchange a layout. If we get it wrong now, then the community will carry out consequences for decades. The cost of correcting it later will be greater than getting it right now from the start. My focus is not about opposing sport or opposing investment, especially in Councillor Walters' ward. It's about ensuring the scale of investment matches the scale of community need, and that we make decisions to reflect long-term planning rather than short-term convenience. As councillors, we are stewardships of public money. We must ensure that major projects like this are designed to meet the needs of the community from not just today, but well in the future. And based on the size of the site, the growing demand for rectangle sports, I don't believe this design delivers that. For that reason, I cannot support the recommendation tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ambros. Any other speakers to the motion? Councillor Reeves.
Thank you, Mayor. I fully support what Councillor Ambros has to say on the matter. I think she's right. However, I'll be supporting this motion because Council has already spent a substantial amount of money that we can't afford to lose. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reeves. Any other speakers? I will speak to the motion. I'd like to acknowledge the concerns of Councillor Ambros here and her advocacy for a very long period, dating back to probably her election, around getting the best use out of our future facilities, our active open spaces, and getting the design right is absolutely critical because we're investing a lot of money in here. I agree, you know, three wings, as we like to call it. There's been a lot of discussion around this, would probably have been a better outcome. But I'll be supporting the contract tender process, no issues with that. The design, look, I think there could have been improvements, but looking at it, if we were to knock back this contract, I actually don't think the changes could be made within the footprint without impacting on the surrounding other uses, particularly the provisional or the provision for tennis in future. So knocking it back now might not actually allow us to get the outcome that Councillor Ambros is seeking for the right reasons at this site. So as such, I'll be supporting the motion for the contract, but also noting this is just for civil works. So be seeking, beyond this, to be working with officers around the design of the building to make sure it's fit for purpose for the allocation. And then also I think the lesson here is, PSPs are planned. As new councillors, we came into these PSPs. We've got the opportunity to make sure that they're right for future projects. And also it's incumbent upon us as we plan our own PSPs that we are thinking about this. And I know we've got a very active councillor group who will be ensuring that those decisions that we will leave for future councillors will be in good hands. So I'll be supporting this, but definitely want to acknowledge Councillor Ambros's advocacy and contribution. Any further speakers? Right of reply for Councillor Pereira. I don't believe you've spoken. No? You can speak.
Yeah, just very briefly, I do really support Councillor Ambros. She's put so much effort into this, and I feel a bit sad that it's not the way she wants it to be. Having said that, because of the outlay that's been made already, I agree. I mean, it's sort of, we need to go ahead with it in my view. We need to progress this, but I do hope going forward, if there are such projects where there's strong councillor interest, that it's really highlighted and the council's taken on the journey as well. I think it's really important. There's a lesson to be learned from this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pereira. And Councillor Walter, no further speakers because not everyone has spoken. Any further speakers before we go right of reply? Over to you, Councillor Walter, right of reply.
Through your Mayor, I would also like to thank Councillor Ambrose for her interest in this matter. I would like to say that early on in our tenure as councillors, this was a meeting that I attended with the officers, and initially there was no overlay for the rectangles. And that was something that I very much push for, because I believe in having all sports accommodated, especially in my ward, where some of the traditional Australian sports may not be appropriate to the demographic, may not be something that they would be interested in. So the rectangle sports have more of that proponent. And I'm happy with the addition of the 2 junior fields as well, in addition to the 2 senior fields that are outlaid. And I'm completely happy with this, and also foreshadowing that there are future projects that have more rectangular fields to come, and I'll be working closely with the officers to make sure those are fit for purpose for other sports such as rugby and soccer and possibly gridiron, who knows?
Thank you, Councillor Walter. On that note, we'll put this to a vote. Motion on the screen. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Keep them raised. Councillor Dizon, Councillor Pereira, Councillor Eves, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Cooman, Councillor Perry, Councillor Walter, Councillor Crowther, Councillor Rowe, Councillor Ross, Councillor Dowling. Thank you, councillors. All those against? Councillor Ambros. I declare the motion carried. Thank you, Asia and Kerry. We'll now move on to our final officer report, which is 5.8. Extension of environmental health contractor Kerno. And to introduce that, we have Chloe Casey, Manager of Communications and Corporate Governance. Chloe.
Thank you and good evening, councillors. This report seeks council's approval to extend our environmental health shared service contract with Kerno Environmental Services for a further 2 years through to the 30th of June 2028. This contract underpins council's ability to meet its statutory environmental health obligations, including under the Food Safety Act, Public Health and Wellbeing Act and the Environmental Protection Act. This contract is a shared service contract delivered in partnership with Bass Coast Shire Council and Cardinia Shire Council, and as such, this extension has been the subject of a coordinated evaluation and negotiation across all 3 councils. The recommendation to extend follows a thorough assessment of options and reflects a need to maintain continuity of these essential statutory services, respond to significant growth in the service demand across a growing municipality, and ensure resourcing keeps pace with that demand. Officers are confident that the extension pricing is supported by clear evidence and that the contractor has demonstrated strong performance throughout the prior years of the contract. Thank you.
Thank you, Chloe. Councillors, do we have any questions for the officer in relation to the report? No questions. We have a recommendation on the screen. Do we have a mover and seconder to make this a motion? Councillor Crowther moving and seconding Councillor Rowe. Any councillors speaking against? None against. Thank you. Councillor Crowther, would you like to speak to the motion?
Very briefly at this time of the night, but through you, Mayor, I support the motion to exercise the extension, as Ms Casey outlined. Good collaboration between our neighbouring councils to deliver benefit to our communities, and the things covered in this contract extension are essential to keep a functioning, healthy municipality. So I support this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Rowe, do you wish to speak?
Only briefly to support I support the motion as it stands.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Any further speakers? No? I'll speak. I support the motion. The only thing I'll note that it is joint service provision, and I think that's really good. We do this a lot, and thanks to the officers for going beyond to try and get value for money and working across larger regions to get better prices. So I've seen the attachment. I'm very confident in it, and will support in full. With no further speakers, we'll put this to a vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Thank you, councillors. That's passed unanimously. And thank you to officers. That completes our officer reports for this evening. As we near the end, we've got a couple more items to go through. Next item is item 6, which is consideration of reports of committees. I haven't noted any committees to report on today, so that is complete. Item 7, standing item, decisions made over $1 million under the S5 instrument of delegation. It's a standing item noted in the agenda. Just for transparency, we included that. So you will see those decisions there. So item 8, which is a petition which has been received, item 8.1. It's a petition in relation to street lighting at George Chudley Drive in Hallam. And I do acknowledge that we have had Tyrone, who submitted Tyrone Vanatambi and signed by 8 signatories. And thank you to Tyrone for joining us and for staying through the whole meeting. I do acknowledge that. To have your petition tabled and heard. I am the ward councillor for this area, so I'll be tabling this petition this evening. Do want to acknowledge petitions are important. We value that you've gone to the effort. And it's an issue that we will look into, look at options and get back to you. So the recommendation upon tabling this petition, it's been a long night, is that the petition be referred to the Chief Executive Officer to respond to the head petitioner and to provide a response to the matters raised in the petition. That response will be provided to myself and councillors also. That's our process. So we will look into it in full and be in contact. So that petition has been tabled, and thank you again for your attendance, Tyrone. On that note, we have some final remaining items: no notice of motions, no late reports, no urgent business, no closed council, and item 13. I won't filibuster for 2 minutes, but we're right at the end, so we've done well for time. I will close the meeting at 8:58, and thank everyone for their attendance in the gallery and online, and thanks to officers. Have a lovely evening.